Viewer discretion is advised. The following content may contain material that some viewers find disturbing or offensive. While we strive to create content that is informative and engaging, the topics discussed today touch upon sensitive subjects. We believe in open discussion and exploring complex themes, but we also understand that certain content can be challenging for some individuals. Your well-being is our priority. If at any point you feel uncomfortable, please feel free to click away. We encourage you to proceed with caution and take care of yourself. For those who choose to continue, thank you for joining us in this important conversation. We appreciate your viewership and encourage you to follow our channel for more thought-provoking content.
They said the truth was buried deep, locked away, no eyes to see. But the silence cracked like thunder rolls when someone dumped the secret scrolls. Power men with suits and lies, hiding under alibis. But the names are written bold and clear, and now the whole world's gonna hear. The Epstein Files hit the wire, burning down their house of liars. No more shadows, no more veil. Justice screams through every trial. The list is live, the world's awake. Watch the towers of the wicked shake. They can't run, they can't hide. The Epstein Files won't be denied. They played with power, flew the skies on wings of sin and televised lies. But now the flight logs light the page with every name they can't escape. Hollywood, royal blood, DC, all caught in the guilty spree. No more secrets, bought or sold. This is the reckoning foretold. The Epstein Files hit the wire, burning down their house of liars. No more shadows, no more veil. Justice screams through every trial. The list is live, the world's awake. Watch the towers of the wicked shake. They can't run, they can't hide. The Epstein Files won't be denied. Prince and president, mogul and priest, every name, every deed, sealed in blood, now set free. Candles lit for the lost and scarred, voices cry from islands far. No hush money can silence fate. Truth has kicked down the gate. The Epstein Files, they cracked the code, burning every gilded road. No more whispers in the dark. Now the whole world sees the mark. The truth is out, the lies are dead. Let justice reign on every head. They can't run, they can't hide. The Epstein Files won't be denied. Release the names, release the names. No more games, no more chains.
Breaking. Reps Anna Paulina Luna just confirmed the House will vote this week on adding the SAVE Act to the government funding bill. This is our chance to force Congress to act on election integrity. The funding crisis gives us unprecedented leverage. Call your representatives now at 202-224-3121. Demand they pass the SAVE Act. Your voice matters. Make it heard today.
The SAVE Act, H.R. 22, or the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, was originally introduced by Representative Chip Roy and passed by the House in April of 2025.
The SAVE Act is a great bill. Mike and I updated our SAVE Act, which focuses on citizenship. We added the voter ID, to your point. That's now the Save America Act, and it's a great bill. And we want to move that bill over to the Senate and then force the Senate to act. I want Democrats to have to explain why they want non-citizens to vote in our elections and they don't want common sense voter ID in federal elections.
Can you explain how requiring proof of ID is voter suppression?
That's not a statement that I ever made.
You sure about that?
Then you should have brought the SAVE Act, which is a voter suppression bill.
The bill demands ironclad documentary proof of U.S. citizenship for federal voter registration, slamming the door shut on any loophole for non-citizens to sneak onto our rolls.
The way the voting system is structured, we see quite a few flaws. You're able to register even if and cast a vote if you don't live in the country, as evident of his brother in Pakistan. And I think we have some evidence of 2 or 3 other people out of the country that voted. Is that correct?
Yeah, approximately 2 or 3 other people out of the country, as well as people residing outside of the district.
All you have to do is click a box and say that you're not lying, and then you'll get an email from the Secretary of State or something in the mail saying, thank you for registering to vote. And there you are. Once you're on the voter rolls, anytime an election comes around, guess what? You get mailed a ballot.
And we found that there were just about 5+ million of them that came to the country as illegals, were giving various forms of parole or allowed in the country, and they got through an automatic system, Social Security numbers, so they get into our benefit systems. And we tracked that through and found that they were on the benefit programs. And just because we were curious, we then looked to see if they were on the voter rolls. And we found in a handful of cooperative states that there were thousands of them on the voter rolls, and that many of them had voted.
71% of sovereign countries require voter ID, while about 15% require basic personal details, and 13% require some form of non-photo ID. Only a small minority of countries have no ID-like requirement at all.
They will bring in hundreds of illegals. They will spread them out across all of these plants and factories, giving them jobs. They're all using the same Social Security number. The IRS unconnected our names from the Social Security number. Now when you look it up, it just pings to see if there's an employer. If there is, it says it's good, it validates it. Why do they do that? Because all of these factories are giving them Social Security numbers. The government turns its back on it. As soon as you have a Social Security number and you go over to motor voter, pass the driver's test, right? You get a driver's license. The person, look, you got a social, you must be a citizen. That's how they pack the rolls.
Nearly a year after House passage, the Senate remains the choke point, with Majority Leader John Thune publicly signaling support and stating a vote is coming at some point once an updated version clears committee. Thune must bring the bill or its stronger Save America Act companion out of committee, schedule floor time, and rally the 53 GOP senators plus at least 7 Democrats, or nuke the filibuster, to hit 60 votes and break through Democratic resistance. It's not optional. Thune either delivers on this core integrity promise or faces the wrath of the growing awareness of the American people.
So the latest voter suppression bill is not a serious thing. Let's just be clear about that. You're asking me a legitimate question, but it's an illegitimate bill. That's dead on arrival. It's going nowhere.
Things could get pretty messy here on the Hill today, as House Republicans may have to advance this package of government spending bills without any help from Democrats whatsoever. Now, the first thing that House Republicans have to do is pass a complicated procedural vote known as a rule. That has to pass in order to get an actual vote on these funding bills on the House floor. Now, that procedural vote is going to be a whole lot easier said than done. Not only will Democrats not vote for it, but Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna is threatening to hold the whole process up if the voter ID bill known as the SAVE Act isn't attached to the spending bills. Still, though, Speaker Johnson is confident it'll all get worked out.
Call now. Demand your congressman and senator pass the SAVE Act. 202-224-3121. Add the SAVE Act to the government funding bill. Please call 202-224-3121. John Bound reporting for InfoWars.
To embody new friends, that of the great replacement, that of the generation that replaces the other, because it's been like that since the dawn of time. And that's not because there were 10 crazy in the corner who all of a sudden were afraid of being replaced with their own children, that we must share their fear. Do you see what he's saying? And talk about gaslighting. He's saying you're afraid of being replaced, but you're going to be replaced with your own children, so isn't that the same? As if handing my inheritance down to my children, the fulfillment of every human drive, since the dawn of time, if you're going to hand off your stuff to your progeny, why wouldn't you just hand it to Akbar from God knows where? It's basically the same, right? You're not going to have it anymore. So it's either going to go to your offspring, your children, the genetic line passed down for 10,000 years that you continue that gift, or it can just be taken by some dude from Mauritania. And that's the same, I guess. And I guess you're crazy. It's almost like they're trying to portray just wanting to exist in your own country as some sort of like existential rejection of death or something. It's like, no, the nation is the nation. We hand it down to our children. Like, what am I having to explain right now? What am I trying to elucidate? Like, what is going on? That I'm trying to explain that handing your nation to your children is not the same as your nation being occupied by a bunch of hostile foreigners? Do I need to explain this? What the hell is going on? Does it want to speak to you about migrants and radicalized people? Please don't leave us alone with so many right-wingers. And of course, we do not. Well, we do want them to vote. Of course, we have achieved papers, regularization already, nationality to change the law so they can vote. Of course, I hope. Replacement theory. Hopefully, we can sweep this country of right-wingers and racists with migrant people and hardworking people. Of course, I want there to be a replacement of right-wingers, replacement of racists, replacement of scroungers. We can do it with the working people of this country. Whatever skin color you have, whether it's black, Chinese, brownoid, all comrades, the people of this country. So, they did this. This came to fruition. They decided without a vote, without the ability of anybody to argue against it, just somebody in the Spanish government decided to gift 500,000 foreigners with citizenship so that they can now vote. Again, the only reason expressed is to replace white people, to replace the people there. I mean, the Spanish suffered under the yoke of Muslims for like 1,000 years, did the Reconquista in this miraculous drive to expel the foreigners, and fought for literally centuries. I mean, the Reconquista took centuries of fighting. Entire generations were born, died, gave birth, born, died, gave birth. Like your great-grandfather was fighting the same fight you were fighting, and they won, and they succeeded, and they expelled the Muslims from Spain. And then they're going to lose it in a single generation because of a bunch of leftist activists, retard communists.
Am I the only one who missed the part where Epstein gets accused of being a literal reptilian shapeshifter? Because, wow. Let's get into it. Okay, you've heard the headlines. Billionaire, blackmail, high society scandals. But the wildest claim? Juliette Bryant, one of Epstein's survivors, says he was a reptilian shapeshifter. No, seriously. She described moments when Epstein seemed to transform, his eyes going cold and dead like a lizard's. Now, before you call for Mulder and Scully, let's talk context. The official investigations, they focus on proven abuse, heartbreaking, real, and horrifying enough without aliens. But these reptilian rumors, they feed into a long history of conspiracy theories about shadowy elites and secret cabals. So, monster or monster from another planet? The facts are jaw-dropping as is, but the mythology keeps growing. What do you think? Are we chasing truth, or just chasing tales?
Juliette Bryant, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, Owen. Thank you so much for having me on your show, and thank you to everyone for listening and for caring. It's been very frightening, everything that's been going on. I was kidnapped by Jeffrey Epstein 22 years ago. I met him when he was in Africa with Bill Clinton and Kevin Spacey and Chris Tucker. They staged a modeling casting, and I was taken to New York to model, but then quickly kidnapped to the island. It's been very, very frightening. You know, obviously I've been in trauma through most of my life after what happened. As we all know, they're covering a lot up. And, you know, I've just been terribly upset, obviously, as everyone has, because they promised us the Epstein list. You know, Trump gained presidency promising the list. And where is the list? Now they say there is no list. How dare they lie to people like this? It's not right. And it doesn't just affect the victims, it affects the public. This has affected all of us. As I've spoken about recently, I saw him shapeshift into something else in front of my eyes. You know, it looked like a sort of reptilian creature, like when I was in the bedroom when he took me there. And what I'm starting to realize is it was probably like an alien creature. And it's hard talking about this because a lot of people think it's crazy. And I would also think it was crazy. But unfortunately, I saw it. And also in New Mexico, I saw a UFO there, and then I woke up in a laboratory with people working on me, you know, 6 people in hazmat suits, or I don't even know if they were people.
Did you get drugged?
And I don't actually know. You know, they didn't allow any alcohol or drugs there, but they could have drugged me. Epstein shapeshifted in front of me. It's very hard to understand if you haven't seen it. But I saw it. I want to be lie detected on this. But I've never seen anyone else turn into anything like that. And it happened. It was like a weird hologram, and it had like big black eyes. If you look back through ancient history, you'll notice there are a lot of dragons. They only used to draw and depict what was real. Also, there's this article joking about Bush, Clinton, and the Queen all being reptiles. Why do Hillary Clinton and Prince Andrew apparently not sweat? What about Bieber, Adele, and Lady Gaga apparently all shapeshifting?
Hundreds of Justin Bieber fans say they witnessed the singer shapeshift into a reptilian while greeting them at Perth Airport. One witness said that all hell broke loose in the airport after Justin Bieber shapeshifted in front of his fans. She claims there were girls hiding in the toilets crying and guys were running for the exits, jumping in taxis to get the hell out of there. Perth Now briefly published an article about the incident featuring multiple interviews with witnesses. However, within an hour of publication, the article was mysteriously taken offline and scrubbed from the internet, but not before alert readers captured screenshots of the article and proof that it appeared on Google. The Perth Now article quoted witnesses who say they saw Bieber with eyes with a black stripe down the middle and big scaly claws that were lashing out angrily. Despite the removal of the article from the internet, the reptilian sightings continued the next morning. A local skater told reporters that Bieber was hanging around with this big guy, his bodyguard I guess, and we were just staring because he kept turning into a huge reptile. His bodyguard was pointing at us, shouting that he'd kick our teeth in if we didn't put our phones away. There were multiple accounts of seeing Bieber with greenish brown claws, while others claimed to have seen the singer in full female reptilian form. One fan described the reptilian version of Bieber as really big, like way over 6 foot, slitty little reptilian eyes, curves, and covered in scales. Experts claim that Bieber belongs to the Babylonian Brotherhood, a group of shape-shifting reptilian humanoids determined to control the world and usher in the New World Order.
Adele shape-shifted into an 8-foot reptilian backstage at Auckland's Mount Smart Stadium after the final concert of her world tour, according to shocked fans and a reporter from the New Zealand Herald. The 10 super fans, invited backstage to meet Adele after her final New Zealand show, got more than they bargained for when the singer shape-shifted into a massive, at least 8 or 9 feet tall, powerfully built reptilian with greenish-gray scales, to quote one of the witnesses. Jim Joint, reporting for the New Zealand Herald, wrote that the superfans told him Adele had flickering reptile eyes with a black stripe down the middle and scaly horns and protrusions all over her body. She looked shocked, like she wasn't prepared for the change, a witness told the Herald. Adele fan Jessie Warren also told the Herald that Adele said the shape-shifting is crippling her and she can't go on until she learns to stop the reptile inside herself from manifesting itself in public. Adele said she won't be able to perform live or tour again until she learns to control the shape-shifting. Editor's note: the screenshots from the New Zealand Herald newspaper article were sent to us by Jessie Warren, an Adele fan who says she was invited backstage. According to Jess, the NZ Herald deleted the article shortly after publication. Warning readers to hold onto their hats, the New Zealand Herald writer claims that a number of fans who were invited backstage to meet Adele witnessed the British singer shape-shift into a giant lizard and then apologize for scaring them, explaining that she meant no harm and is a good reptilian. The New Zealand Herald has not responded to questions asking why they deleted the article from their website.
I painted Epstein as a reptile in 2019, and Maria Farmer, another victim, painted him as a reptile in 2020. Others have had similar experiences. What about The Simpsons prediction? Wasn't The Simpsons man on Epstein's airplane?
America, take a good look at your beloved candidates. They're nothing but hideous space reptiles.
As Tucker Carlson recently said, maybe we really are in a spiritual war.
That we are being acted on by spiritual forces that we cannot see, that there is a war going on all around us, out of our sight, not perceived by our senses most of the time, between good and evil.
What do you mean by the things that you had to unpack that happened to you? Explain, just give me some idea of what that is.
Well, you know, like when I was taken there the first time, I saw him literally turn into something else in front of my eyes. Like he shapeshifted in the bedroom. It was freaky. And, you know, I can understand a lot of people would think, okay, this girl's a bit bonkers, or she was on drugs, but I wasn't on drugs and I'm not bonkers. You know, I saw this and I only saw it once. It was, 22 years ago. he suddenly turned into like a sort of dragon alien creature with huge black eyes. And it was and when I was taken in the bedroom with him that this happened, and David Icke speaks about all this stuff. That's actually how I first spoke about it publicly, because I did an interview with Richard Willett from Iconic, and he's a great guy. He's almost like Sherlock Holmes. He's he does a lot of research, and he asked me the leading questions, about the book I wrote, why is it called The Dragon, the Apple and the Butterfly, and then I had to tell him because I saw Epstein turn into something. It only happened once, but it's such a vivid thing in my mind because it just, it was very frightening. His head just went really big, and then he had these big black eyes, and it was almost like an alien, devil-looking sort of thing with horns, and it just really, I got, that's another reason why I was, of course, petrified.
Sure, of course. Listen, I mean, we've got lots of people who are extremely suspicious about the way that he is supposed to have died. Nobody really knows. There are still reports that he may have escaped, he may have got out, he may still be alive. What did you feel when you heard the news that he had died? And what do you think around, all of these suspicious circumstances that have to do with his death?
Well, I just couldn't almost believe it when he died, because I thought that he sort of ran the world, and I couldn't believe that, it was just quite a shock. And also with regards to seeing the shapeshifting, I just wanted to bring up also that, Kathy O'Brien has spoken about this, because she was a MK Ultra sex slave apparently within the Bush administration. And also Jeanette Archer is another person who's spoken about shapeshifting.
Yeah.
Also, how The Simpsons predicts things. The Simpsons also, there's one where they go and they pull the mask off the president's heads and they're suddenly reptiles. There's a lot of weird stuff around all of that.
Yeah.
But sorry, what was the other question?
No, so
sorry,
his
I
death.
jumped there.
I mean, did you find all of that suspicious?
Yeah, well, it was just, it was just very, very, just what was going on. It was just very weird, And also in New Mexico, I saw a UFO in the sky there, and that's when Michael Bay was there at the same time. And then I also have a memory where I woke up in a lab, was paralyzed on a table, naked, with people with 6 people in hazmat suits standing around me and a doctor and then she said, don't worry, everything's okay, and I was out again. And I've never had anesthetic as far as I know, so I don't really know how that works, but a friend of mine said that with anesthetic you can have weird sort of like we spoke about, and it's a very difficult thing to explain, because a lot of people wouldn't understand it, but it happened. He turned into something in front of my eyes, and people question it and say, was I maybe drugged or something? I don't know, but the thing is, I do know that I've experimented with drugs years later, and I never ever saw anyone turn into anything ever. I obviously don't do drugs, but from the times when I slipped up and did them as a young person being stupid. But I wasn't doing any drugs there. We weren't allowed to do drugs. We weren't allowed, I'd never touched drugs. I'd actually never done a drug when I saw that. I'd maybe smoked a joint. Well, I definitely had smoked a joint, but I'd never ever touched any drug by that point in my life. And I think if I'd been drugged, I would have actually been aware of it, because I would have felt weird. Another weird thing is I've seen on the one documentary that Lisa Bryant made, I saw myself walking in the background, and it almost creeped me out, because it almost looks like I'm sort of floating. Because it's the thing is with hypnosis and cults, what I'm starting to realize is this was more like a sort of culty thing, where he was trying to get hold of people, and I think that's why a lot of people won't come forward, because a lot of people might have been benefiting. It was a place where you didn't come out feeling normal, to be after being around them. And I can't really explain it because, I don't have the intelligence or the background, to nest. But, there's some very, very clever people out there who understand things like this, that would be able to understand what was going on. But it was just very, very frightening being around them. And I don't think I was drugged. When I saw him shift, I saw that, and I don't know if I was drugged, but I did see him turn into something, and it was very much there, and it was very frightening. It's sort of shook my whole like perception of reality and everything. And it's something I couldn't even speak about at the time because I couldn't tell my mum more about what had happened there. And it's just something I talk about, but it's something that I very much saw.
Why did you choose the title Epstein, the Dragon, the Apple, and the Butterfly? There's obviously the butterfly comes back here as well to the blue butterfly. You were talking about you've got MK Ultra kind of connotations to the butterfly with the monarch butterfly. So why did you choose that title? It's a lovely title.
Because when I was taken to the island, I saw Epstein shift in front of my eyes. It was very, very frightening. And it's just something that I had to explain to myself because I saw him turn into something. And if someone else told me this, I wouldn't believe it. But unfortunately, it happened to me. So I had to look into it and try to find reasons for it to explain it. You know, it's not an easy thing to talk about because I can understand that a lot of people wouldn't understand it if they haven't seen it. Do you mind if I just have a puff of a cigarette? Sorry.
Yeah.
And then we keep going once.
Yeah, sure. Do another 5 minutes on top of this anyway, so that's fine.
Okay. Okay, let's do it.
So was this a theory that you were familiar with before? Was this the first time you heard it? So there was no suggestion in here. This is something you weren't aware of.
No, I wasn't aware of anything like that. You know, a few years later, my mum started actually researching David Icke, and my mum knew about the whole reptilian theory, and you know, so then I sort of clicked what I'd seen. Because, you know, the thing is, it wasn't actually like reptilian, it was more like an alien, like dragon. And that's when I looked into the Draconians, you know, the Draco law, you know, also the Order of the Dragon, the royal family are all apparently part of the Order of the Dragon. Also their descendant, Vlad the Drac, used to drink blood, Vlad the Impaler. You know, so I looked into a lot of history and it sort of, yeah, it explained. But I saw him shift into something. It only happened once. But I've never seen anyone else turn into anything like that. And it happened. It was like a weird hologram, and it had like big black eyes. And so it happened.
Big black eyes, and it wasn't quite reptilian, but it was esque.
Yeah, it was like it was like reptilian, draconian, alien sort of thing. It was like, you know, it wasn't like the usual reptilian pictures that they draw of people where but I saw it, you know, and it was like, and I was, you know, when I looked at him and saw him as that, I decided to look away and look back at him. And when I looked back, it was him again.
Thank you for watching my video. Please visit my website at samstwitch.com. My X profile is at x.com/samstwitch_Sam. My YouTube channel is at youtube.com/samstwitch. I post videos that I cannot post on YouTube on my BitChute channel, at bitchute.com/samstwitch.
3 million new Epstein-related files just dropped. And yeah, this is one of the biggest government document releases I've seen in years. The Department of Justice says this came down because of the bipartisan Epstein Files Transparency Act. Congress told them to release it, and they did. Here's what that means in practical terms. This trove includes FBI tips, private emails, letters, court records, travel notes. But key thing up front, a ton of this is unvetted. The FBI collects tips and raw intelligence all the time. That doesn't make it verified. Being mentioned is not proof of a crime, and it's not proof of association with Epstein's offenses. What's already surfacing? A wide range of names and correspondence. People from across the political and cultural spectrum. We're talking everyone from academics, media figures, political operatives. Sometimes the context is mundane. Networking, introductions, advice, everything from career help to random life questions. The DOJ is also saying they didn't redact notable individuals to protect them, which is going to fuel plenty of hot takes. But remember, transparency isn't adjudication. We're seeing raw material. We are not seeing a verdict. We're already seeing fallout abroad. There's at least one resignation in Slovakia tied to newly revealed contacts post-Florida conviction, which shows the reputational blast radius here is global, not just American. So how do I think about this responsibly? First, separate 3 buckets: verified court records, private communications, raw submissions to the FBI. Court records carry weight. Private emails show who wrote what, but not whether claims in them are true. And FBI tips? That's the loudest, messiest bucket. Treat it like unconfirmed noise until corroborated. Second, expect contradictions. High-profile networks are chaotic. Some people cozy up, some back away, and some do both depending on the year and the headlines. That's not a defense of anyone. It's a reminder that timelines matter. Third, resist the urge to map a grand, all-encompassing narrative onto mixed, often boring realities. If a claim is huge, the evidence needs to be bigger. Where does this go next? Journalists, lawyers, researchers are going to spend months parsing these documents, cross-referencing with prior testimony, flight logs, court filings, financial records. Expect corrections, walkbacks, new confirmations. Here's my commitment. I'll flag what's sourced, what's speculation, and what's flat-out unverified. I'll link to primary documents when possible, and highlight where context changes the meaning of a quote or email. If you're diving in yourself, protect your brain and your timeline. Look for original docs, timestamps, corroboration from multiple outlets. Don't harass anyone named in raw files. Don't spread claims you wouldn't stake your reputation on. Big picture, sunlight is good, accountability is necessary, and nuance is not a cop-out. It's how you get to the truth. I'll keep reading.
You have Jeffrey Epstein in hundreds of these emails, talking to Michael Wolff and talking to prominent Democrats and talking to the, head of the NBA and all these people saying, we're at war with the Goy. We're at war with the Christians and the white people. We're at war with the West. We've always been at war. We're winning the war. And you have to understand that this goes back thousands of years to the Jews in the Middle East surrounded by all these other tribes where everybody was tribal and hated the other tribe. If you go back to every other tribe in the world, that's how every group operated. Christianity is what lifted Europe out of all of this and tribalism and unified everybody around God, okay? And so I'm not giving Jews a pass on this. We've always covered this, that in a lot of the rabbinical teachings and even in the Old Testament Bible, you can read, that's your enemy, go kill all the Philistines and even kill their donkeys and kill their kids because it's genocide. They were doing it to each other. And you see cultures in general do that. We did the Native Americans. They would come to us and say, help me kill that tribe or I'll kill you. They were just as bad as us or worse. It's how humans operate. But that's not an apology for large sectors of Jewry. It is the fact that we need to recognize this reality and understand why the leftist Jews and then even the AIPAC more right-wing Jews are, and the NGOs and the replacement migration are doing this because fundamentally they're race and religious based. And because they stayed on their own, never assimilated in Europe and did all of that, and it was both sides attacking each other, they still carry that beef. I can play you hundreds of rabbis, both conservatives and liberals, saying, America is the new Rome. We're still at war with Rome because Titus sacked Jerusalem in 70 AD, and we're going to destroy America when we're done sucking it dry. Now, from what I've seen, most Jews aren't even religious or read that or involved. And there's a lot of rabbinical groups that admit it all and say we're not part of that. But I'd say it's about half of Jewry is at the top, a mafia. And that's how the Somalis are. Everyone is scum but us, including other Africans. When you're an elite that feeds on people, you did a great job last night describing it. It's a total operating system and excuse you dehumanize your enemies, okay? And my point is, that's why Hitler, reading all this, he's a nationalist. He created something, but that's why I said the Jews in Europe, what they were up to, and because they were trying to break up Germany and break up the family and replace migration, the Kalergi plan, that conjured Adolf Hitler. But you study Hitler, he did a lot of really criminal, evil, wicked stuff. He wasn't a Christian. He was an occultist. They did all these black magic rituals. They're declassified. He was nuts. Just because what Jews were doing, some of them was wrong, doesn't mean that Hitler's good. And then they wouldn't let most Jews leave. It was Jews that would do the deals with the Nazis, including Madeleine Albright's dad on record. They got caught with all the famous art of Jews who would then steal the money from Jews to get out and not let them even get out.
Right.
And you could only go to Palestine under the Zionist project with Hitler, who was for that. And he set up, even before, after the Balfour Agreement and stuff, with the British, who they had treaties with, to make that the Jewish homeland. If they conquered Russia, they were going to take a large area, about 500 miles east of, in the south of Russia, twice the size of Texas, and make that the new Israel.
Yeah.
People can look that up. They talk about making Ukraine the new Israel. That's why there is a group saying that. The rabbis say, oh, this is our new. I mean, this is Just know the players, okay? Trotsky was Jewish. The 100,000 British intelligence that were funded in 1917 out of the U.S. that were Russian and Polish Jews were sent in the October Revolution. That's all public. That's all knowledge. That's all history. Then they exterminated 20 million Christians. Stalin was seen as a hero because he then killed Lenin, went after Trotsky. He ran to Mexico, sent his people to the U.S. to become the neocons. This is all New York Times admits this, to take over the Republican Party, to then go to war with Russia. So you have to know all these old beefs. That's why they're using Ukraine, even though and the pro-Nazis, who are the grandkids of Nazis, allied with Jews and Zelensky. Zelensky's like, yes, we have SS. Yes, we have Nazis here. They're Ukrainians too. So you get all these weird bedfellows, and it doesn't make sense to people that aren't learned. After World War II, all the Nazi hunting was fake. They did a few things for PR. Simon Wiesenthal, all that's a fraud. They had top SS colonels working for Israel, running Israeli assassination teams who helped set up the Mossad. You just type in famous Nazis that later worked for Israel. And it's just a whole giant list of the most decorated commando, SS colonel, Hitler's favorite person, just worked for the Jews till he died. So work for Israel.
Want the truth about who spent the most time on that island? Fine, I'll give it to you straight, no filter. The former president, you know exactly which one. Yeah, Clinton. The survivors still call him number one. Epstein used to laugh and say there was heavy competition for the title. But when the girls compared notes in the safe houses later, every single one of us agreed he took the crown no contest. He liked the dog leashes, thick black leather ones with silver studs. He'd clip them on our collars, yeah, we had collars, and parade us around the main house, barefoot on the marble, out by the pool, sometimes all the way down to the beach. If you walked slow, he'd yank. If you stumbled, he'd make you get on all fours and eat dog biscuits off the floor like a good girl. He kept a crystal bowl of them right by the bar, called them treats. When he was in the mood, he'd pick one of us, always the youngest looking, always the one who still cried, and say, "You've earned something extra special tonight. You don't need me to spell out what the extra special was, you already know." Then Hillary would walk in. Everything got darker the second she appeared. She didn't want sex. She prefers terror. She'd scream at us to get on the floor and lick up whatever mess had been made. Sometimes it was food, sometimes it wasn't. If we were too slow, she'd grab a fistful of hair and shove our faces into it while the men laughed. And then there were the nights she called the most dangerous game. They'd release us into the trees with a 10-minute head start, barefoot, no clothes. She'd be waiting in a golf cart with a hunting rifle across her lap. Bill and his buddies followed on foot with those electric prods they used on the yachts. If he caught you first, you were dragged back and degraded in ways that used to wake me up screaming. If she caught you, you didn't come back. Most times, she didn't even bother getting close. She'd just take the shot from 50 yards and watch through the scope while you bled out on the leaves. That's who they were on that island. That's who they still are. And every time you see them smiling on television, remember, most of us never came home.
Joining me now to discuss is independent journalist Liz Churchill. She joins us by phone, and she's going to walk us through a lot of the Epstein stuff. And Liz, it's an honor to have you on. I'm excited to have you here. I kind of wanted to start off with the Bill Gates stuff because, I don't think Bill Gates wants us talking about his involvement in all of this. And, in the beginning of the show, we played a lot of clips and they had a lot to do with specifically what Bill was accused of. And again, he hasn't been convicted of anything. And I want to keep driving that point home because sadly, our government's too weak to actually launch a real investigation into this. But Liz, we're seeing millions of documents make their way out there. What do you make of what you've seen so far about Bill?
Well, thank you so much for having me on this morning, Brianna.
Thank you.
And I will tell you that it is absolutely horrific, these Epstein Island documents, because when you read through them, you will discover that Bill Gates with Jeffrey Epstein, they were talking about a pandemic simulation before the pandemic. And of course, these documents are dated back to 2017. So when we look back on the pandemic that was forced upon us, it really reads like this was, in fact, planned well in advance. And I actually find it disgusting that people were forced to take medical advice from a habitual visitor to Epstein's Island As you know, Bill Gates is not a doctor, he's not a scientist, nor is he a vaccinologist, which begs the question, like you previously said, he was trying to find creative ways to slip antibiotics into his wife's drink or food. And I really think that this is a moment that we need to ask ourselves, if he's willing to do that to his wife, then what is he putting in those vaccines?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Liz, that's a fair question to be asked. And, I'll let you kind of sound off on this too. And then I definitely want to hover over the vaccine related issues as well. But I want to say Melinda Gates, I was watching as, they filed for divorce and they were going through the whole process. But when they were getting onto the point of finalizing that divorce, it seemed like Melinda was very publicly, and we played a clip earlier in the show, that she was trying to apply a little bit of pressure to Bill and that she wasn't going to go out there and publicly start outing his information. She kept saying, well, talk to Bill about that. But anytime a question was teed up for her, she did say that she strongly disapproved of Bill hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, and she was very angry about that. What do you make of Melinda? Because I think that's a key point in all of this. We haven't really heard directly from her since the divorce was finalized.
Well, I think that she used a very diplomatic approach. She wasn't going to air out all of the issues that were pertaining to their divorce, but she did make it very clear that she was disgusted with Jeffrey Epstein and that she was with him at a meeting, and she came back later that night and stated, I do not like him and I would like you to cut ties with this individual. And now we know that Bill did not. So this is a very complicated situation because I believe that she's not the type to go out and tell everybody about the intricate details of the relationship, but she did make it very clear that she was quite uncomfortable with the relationship between Jeffrey Epstein and her ex-husband, Bill. Again, this is a situation where I think that when all the details are known, I believe that the public will be so horrified and they will be asking many more questions in regards to the close ties that Bill Gates had with a child sex trafficker. And again, you don't want, like you said earlier, there's enough information that's been put out there that has been incorrect, and we have to stick to the documents that have been proven to be true. So do I think that she will make a statement? I don't know. But I sure hope that Bill does, because this is disgusting. What he has done is a crime against humanity. I think that everything regarding the pandemic should be completely investigated. And again, people need to go back and watch Event 201, which was a pandemic simulation that mirrored the pandemic that we were forced to live through with astonishing accuracy.
Yeah.
Something is very, very wrong here. And even HHS, RFK Jr. has stated that Bill Gates was hosting a coronavirus pandemic simulation in New York City. His co-host was Avril Haines, the deputy director of the CIA. What were they doing there? And why was this paid for by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the World Economic Forum?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're gonna get that clip up in just a moment in regards to RFK Jr. and the allegations that he made as well, because I think this was a really interesting one in regards to Bill Gates hosting a corona pandemic simulation in New York and the attendees and all of that. We actually have that clip right now. Let's take a listen.
This is what the National Security Agency is saying, that they believe that September 12th was the day that it actually began circulating.
Okay.
A month later, you have in New York City, Bill Gates hosting a coronavirus pandemic simulation. At that, his co-host is Avril Haines, the deputy director of the CIA. What is the CIA doing at a public health forum? They don't do public health. They do coup d'etat. Now Avril Haines is the top spy in America. Wow. She is the one who hid the torture tapes from Abu Ghraib, during that CIA scandal. So that she now is the head of the National Security Agency, the top spy in the country. She's also in charge of the coronavirus response. At the simulation, you have Avril Haines, you have people from all the social media companies, you have people from the pharmaceutical companies, mainly Johnson & Johnson, the biggest one. They do, and you have another guy, peculiar guy, George Gao, who's the head of the Chinese CDC.
Oh, man, he sounds sneaky.
So George Gao must have known that this was circulating at that point. By the way, any of your listeners who does not believe what I'm saying can go and look up Event 201. It's still on YouTube.
And this was before the pandemic.
It was after it started circulating, but none of us knew about it till January.
So this is after the NSA had said that this had occurred.
The NSA now says, looking back,
this had occurred.
Is when it occurs. And at that time, they didn't know.
So then there was a get-together.
The world did not know until around January 3rd.
So then there was a big get-together of some...
So then they're all together planning, here's how we're going to handle a coronavirus pandemic if it happens.
Was Fauci there or no?
Fauci was not there, but there were people from his agency there. So, and the interesting thing is, there was no discussion of public health. They weren't saying, how are we going to get repurposed medications? How are we going to link 11 million doctors, frontline physicians around the world on a communication grid so that we can quickly figure out what's working, what's working in Bangladesh, what's working in Argentina, what are the best protocols, what are the best repurposed medications that seem effective against
Right, like what's already working against this type of thing that we could ask people to get prepared and get on now to help
Let me step in on this, Liz. I kind of want you to walk us through it all because obviously this is deeply, deeply concerning, but I like that he's giving away all these details. What do you make of it?
Well, this is very concerning because, again, in order to produce such a simulation, you need writers, you need the actors to participate in said simulation, which takes us back a year prior to that. So the question becomes, if they knew that this was going to happen, why didn't they use resources to help the frontline workers instead of pouring millions of dollars into a simulation? For what reason? Why did they need to practice this beforehand? It defies common sense. So when you have the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the World Economic Forum cosplaying as virologists, vaccinologists, and doctors prior to a pandemic, like I said, which happened with astonishing accuracy, there needs to be an investigation because now we know several years later that the vaccine, which was forced upon our world, which was heavily promoted by Bill Gates, has injured and murdered millions of people. This is unbelievable. More people have died from this than both world wars combined. And like you said before, the government doesn't appear to be investigating anyone or anything for this, which I find absolutely appalling because I speak with the people that have suffered through this, and they're not receiving the answers that they deserve.
Yeah, and Liz, the part that's really frustrating here is I keep having to say the words allegedly, and there's a reason for that because they've refused to investigate any of this, and it sucks because the harsh reality is no one's been proven in court to be a pedophile, to have, I mean, obviously we know Epstein was, but I mean, Epstein got that great deal, and that's sarcasm, folks, but the reality is he was given a sweetheart deal, and it's really frustrating that we won't get to the bottom of any of this, but it's not just Bill Gates also looking to suppress a lot of the information that's coming out, I'm sure, right now, and trying to block the American people from seeing his ties to Epstein, although he tries to distance himself at best. But I also want to get to Reid Hoffman because I remember Elon Musk, this is months ago. Elon Musk said, yeah, both Reid Hoffman and Bill Gates are probably sweating bullets right now because they don't want this information out there. But we're learning more because in these Epstein files so far that have been released, I mean, Reid Hoffman's name is listed 2,600 times in these emails. There's been multiple visits, according to the emails, multiple layers of communication through Zoom calls, dinners, meetings. What are you making of all of this with Hoffman as well?
Well, Elon was correct. And if it wasn't for the X platform, we wouldn't be getting out this information. So all of us should be very fortunate that we have this avenue to give out this information, because you and I both know that regime media would absolutely refuse to do so themselves. And Reid Hoffman, yes, like you said, his name appears many, many, many times. And he knew exactly what he was doing. And I do think that a lot of the people that were in these files repeatedly were pushing to not have them released. And we also know, if we go back to Bill Gates and Dick Durbin, and when Kash Patel had stated that Bill was actively lobbying the Senate to ensure that these weren't released. And this was even after he gave a $50 million contribution to the Harris campaign. I mean, when we look at these emails that have been produced, we know that there was a massive cover-up. And that does go to Bill, Reid, and all of the key players that appeared to be closest to Jeffrey Epstein and his trafficking network. So it's unfortunate that it has come to this and that it wasn't released before. And again, like I said, we should be very thankful that we have a social media platform to publish these findings, because there wasn't a chance that regime media was going to do so.
Yeah. Well, you know, Liz, you're spot on it, because we know this because we haven't seen them talk about this. I mean, I haven't seen anyone of substance go out there on any of the big shows and detail what we're finding in these Epstein files. They've quickly pivoted. They're so happy to cover the ICE protests and everything else, except the documents that are here. And again, I think the only coverage you're ever going to find of this is both on InfoWars and over at X. So you're spot on with that too. If we didn't have X, we'd be nowhere. I mean, that's where this all kind of lays right now. Unfortunately, everyone's a bunch of cowards. So I think you're right.
We would be banned. We would be banned. If it was the old owner, we would be totally banned.
Yeah.
And that again tells you the depth of outright treason, genocide, child trafficking. Every single heinous crime known to man has been happening, yet nobody seems to want to report on it. That's a very big red flag.
Yeah.
So, again, what they did, which is what you said earlier, is they flooded the zone with fraudulent documents and incorrect emails to try and divert your attention away from the truth. So people need to be very careful with the information that they see floating around, because not all of it is authentic.
Yeah. Yeah, Liz, I also want to hover over this point too. Ehud Barak, he's the former Israeli prime minister. Yeah, we've heard a lot about that name previously. And, you know, obviously we're learning more and more about, there's allegations that he had stayed multiple times at Epstein's New York apartments. And there's more documents coming out about this relationship between the two. Now, again, these are accusations, I have to keep saying. But I want to talk about this a little bit, because obviously most people who've been following the Epstein scandal know that Epstein has very close ties to Israel. Was there anything else that you saw in this latest document dump that has your ears perked up?
Oh, I mean, there was videos, right?
Yeah.
So not only did we have these former prime ministers, we also had the monarchy, right? Prince Andrew. Those pictures were horrific. And like you said, Ehud Barak, he was a repeat offender in these documents. And some of the atrocities that were detailed in these emails are so horrific that they require a warning to viewers before they listen or watch them. Then we can go in even further to what I found very disturbing, Brianna, was the former U.S. ambassador to Mexico that impregnated an 11-year-old girl and had a former U.S. Marine serve his prison sentence. And this was after DNA tests concluded that he was the father. I mean, the rot of these garbage humans runs deep. And it's so unbelievable that people find it very difficult to digest because you have to cross that psychological line where you have to admit to yourself that such evil exists, such evil did happen, and the question now becomes, what are we going to do about it?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a question that all Americans need to ask themselves is what we're going to do about this. Folks, and just 1 second, too. Liz, I wanted to get to this because I know our audience probably wanted to jump into the conversation. The phone number is 877-789-2539. That's 877-789-2539. That's the number you can call into, and we'll be taking your calls in just a little bit. But, Liz, I wanted to also get to this because yesterday we heard from Todd Blanche. And although, we haven't seen any charges actually stick, we haven't seen anything happen, he is alluding to the fact that DOJ is open to possibly filing charges against these people. But, Liz, I kind of want to hear your take about this because, again, we're in a situation where we're seeing the DOJ say that they will do something, but you have over 3.5 million documents that you're releasing. You're telling me there's not a single crime in any of this? It's kind of strange, isn't it?
Well, it is very strange because the average American would face prison time for not paying taxes. The average American would face prison time if they took something from a store that was $10. So when we're dealing with this level of criminality, I think that the crimes go so deep and the crimes are international. I think that eventually that they will be charged. However, they have to do this carefully because, again, we're dealing with some of the most powerful people in the world. We're dealing with the most richest people in the world. And in those documents, you have Jeffrey Epstein basically admitting that he works for the Rothschilds. So this goes way up. This goes above and beyond our government. And I guess on a positive note, we now can confirm who our governments really work for, how they're compromised, and why our world is spinning into this satanic abyss of some of the most heinous crimes known to man. And I do believe that there will be justice. I do believe that.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to see someone like Tony Podesta charged. Yeah. Right? We're looking at a house of cards. So once you have one arrest, these criminals, they will all turn on each other. And I think after a first big arrest, that everyone else will start falling as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Liz, we're hoping for it. I mean, at this point, it's long overdue. And not only for the victims of, obviously the attacks, but I think the American people need to see arrest, to have faith in their federal government. I mean, they've lost so much of our trust. And so the only way to restore it is to actually go after the corruption. So we do hope that they do just that. But Liz, I want to thank you for calling in. I know it was the last minute, so I greatly appreciate you joining the show.
No problem.
It was an honor to have you on. We look forward to having you on again in the future.
You.
Liz Churchill, folks, give her a follow on X as well. She does an incredible job and posts some really important content. So we're very grateful for her. Thank you for joining us, Liz.
While other networks lie to you about what's happening now, InfoWars tells you the truth about what's happening next.
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? Well, some interesting times here. Now, the Epstein Files has been released. Additional 3 million, for I understand. 3 million files has been dumped so far. And people are downloading those files any which way they can and studying them hard, any which way they can. And I would say rightfully so. Very much rightfully so. Now, here's the kicker to all this right here, okay? Like one of my AI videos said, facts matter, okay? Documentations matter. and court proceedings and stuff like that matters, okay? I can see the media, the mainstream media, and alt media as well, I'm just telling you the truth, is going to spin this around any which way but loose. So we have to be very, I say, spectacle on everything they're going to say and report on, well, especially the mainstream media as well. Because the mainstream media like MSNBC, CNN, basically ABC News, CBS News, and ABC News, and PBS, and MSN, all of them right there, they're going to spin this around, try to make Trump look guilty with Epstein files, put it that way. They're going to report the hell out of that. You have Fox News and outlets like that, maybe AON, that's going to spin it towards Bill Clinton and Democrats, basically, because they're just biased. That's how it is. Now, InfoWars is a little more centric, a little more less partisan. Okay, they're not as biased as other media outlets are, let's put it that way. So is Redacted, Tim Pool, basically. Those are the good ones right there, in my opinion alone right there. Maybe some of yours as well. And a few others I can't think of right now either. But, even Nick Fuentes reporting on us, he's kind of like in the neutral all this as well. Now, I will say this. Now, everybody's calling, well, I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of people is calling Trump like a pedophile protector. But they're calling Trump a pedophile protector. Like Trump is protecting pedophiles. That's not the whole case right there. Okay? Because when you're the president of the United States and high elected officials, you're privy to a lot of information that we don't know. And I do believe they're afraid that if they dump the Epstein files, it'd be total chaos here in the United States, which it's going to happen any damn way, regardless. So they probably saw that and probably release them any damn way. This is my opinion. And what gets me, the Democrats said nothing about the Epstein files during the Biden regime. But since Trump took office, they've been screaming and released the Epstein files. I guess they want to try to get more dirt on Trump, basically. Even they have to sacrifice and eat their own to do it. I guess the old saying, if you want to make an omelet, you got to crack a few eggs. So I guess they're willing to do that, basically, and try to score political points. But, all it is a political machine they're running right here. But then it turned to a bipartisan effort, basically. This has a bipartisan bill that passed through Congress and the Senate, and the president signed it. I think he had to, basically. So, it's been dumped big time. And one thing I've noticed since all this began, Jeffrey Epstein, now he was a pedophile. Yes, he tortured and raped young girls. I am not denying that whatsoever. But also, Jeffrey Epstein ran intelligence operations, basically. Money laundering operations. I mean, he made billions off this, what are you going to say it? All this expedition right here, let's put it this way. All his endeavors, I will say right there. All Jeffrey Epstein's endeavors, basically, got him super rich, put in a position that he can kidnap, recruit, basically, and torture young girls, especially like teenage girls, for I understand. Maybe younger than that. I don't want to get too involved in that. It's kind of sickening right there, to be honest with you. But not just girls. I think he kidnapped and raped a lot of boys as well. But not just him. He was doing it for his clients. And Jeffrey Epstein, unlike, I say, most pimps, okay, Jeffrey Epstein was used for, like I said, intelligence operations. He was using it to compromise powerful people. Not just presidents, former presidents, basically. Not just senators and congress people, okay. He did to ambassadors, foreign ambassadors, basically, U.S. ambassadors, kings and queens around the world, the monarchs around the world, all the other world leaders, basically the presidents, out throughout Europe and Asia, probably, and Middle East, so you have high, powerful, political people around the world is getting caught up in this as well as these files keep getting dumped, basically. Okay, because we already know that a couple princes and kings, in England, basically, a prince, basically, and the king of England, powerful individuals in the United Kingdom are getting caught up in this. Probably other Western European countries and other European countries, Middle Eastern countries. I just go on and on and on. It's implicating people in Russia, let's put it that way as well. This has to be the largest, most powerful human sex trafficking in the world today. Okay? And let me tell you something. If they found hardcore evidence against Trump, I will dump him in a heartbeat. I will tear the Trump flags, I'll tear them down, burn them. I'll burn his head in a heartbeat the minute I find out that. The only reason I'm not doing it now, because all these disinformation about Trump in the past, stuff like that, I have to take all that shit with a grain of salt. They lied so much on the damn man. So, I'm kind of giving the benefit of the doubt as of right now. This is what I'm doing right now. I say as the stuff is being released. But like I said, facts, documentations, and court proceedings matters. Not just allegations and wild rumors on the internet, basically. Okay? And yes, I did stitch a video on this one, but this lady who was a Jeffrey Epstein victim. She was kidnapped, basically, from what I understand, and forced in this sex ring, basically. And she swore up and down that Jeffrey Epstein turned into a reptile, a human reptile, humanoid reptilian being. Let's put it that way, like he was a shapeshifter. Huh. She said she wasn't drugged. She wasn't on drugs or nothing like that. They never drugged her for what she said. And I don't think she's crazy. I do believe she really believed what she saw. Okay, so I'm not going to judge this woman. That's why I said I had one on there to warn you guys what this is going to be about right here. And we got to realize, we have to acknowledge the fact on those poor girls, they probably did horrific experiments on them, besides just sexually and brutally torture them as well. And they say Bill Clinton, basically, and Hillary Clinton was like their number one clients. He was there. They were there a lot. So, and one good thing I can see, a lot of Democrats are starting to see that. So that's a good thing. Gives a little bit of hope right there. Okay? But not just Bill and Hillary, Obama too, so I don't know how they're going to take that. When Obama's name started getting dropped, Biden's name started getting dropped. And I got to be fair, Bush's name is getting dropped in this as well. Senior is getting dropped, and Junior. I saw the pictures of President Trump. I'm sorry. I saw the pictures of President Bush Jr. on Epstein Island. Him with that painting with paper airplanes throwing that box like a little building there. Okay, it's kind of felt creepy, like the picture of Bill Clinton in a blue dress, what I understand. And speculation that was Monica Lewinsky's dress that he was wearing. And the only reason why the Monica Lewinsky scandal came out is because Bill Clinton refused to release a prisoner they had custody who was supposedly an Israeli spy. Bill Clinton refused to release him, so Monica Lewinsky got dropped. I am not going to accuse Monica Lewinsky of being involved with Epstein at all. I'm not accusing her of that. I'm not 100% sure. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? So that grain of salt right there until we receive hardcore documentation. Okay? Regardless, even though I stitched a video on that, I already explained that to you, we have to take it a grain of salt, and I will not call any of the victims of Epstein Island, any of those young ladies, or in a lot of cases, a lot of young boys or men who was victim in all this, who was raped and tortured in all this madness, severe madness. I will not call them a liar. Okay? I will not. Their imagination might run wild, but I'm not going to call them a liar. Because I have hardcore proof on that right there. So things are about to be interesting. Now, one thing I would say, people want to see prosecutions. I understand, and I know why. Wouldn't get my hopes up. I would see a few small people fry in this right here. Maybe Bill Gates, because his name's being dropped. Like he liked to go on Epstein Island and beat women. I guess beat young girls. I think he broke one young girl's jaw in this. So he's getting caught up in this. So yeah, this is going to be very interesting as well. So Bill Gates, I believe, my opinion on this alone, that Bill Gates will probably be thrown under the bus. He's one of the small players in this. Jeffrey Epstein was the middleman in all this, funneling money supplying young girls, supplying kids to these high-power elite pedophiles, basically. That exactly is what they are doing right there. So everything is getting dropped right now. And one thing, I mean, you look at Trump's, you can look at Trump's Truth Social post, basically, where he's threatening I'm sorry, I'm getting too excited here. But if you look at Trump's Truth Social post, he made a statement threatening he's probably going to sue CNN, Wolf, basically, because they were talking about him with Epstein, like the Academy Awards talking about Trump and Epstein, so he's going to sue them all. We'll see where this goes right here. I guess the defamation of character. Okay, and by the way, I think Wolf on CNN, his name's getting dropped in this as well. But grain of salt, speculation is all that is right there. Okay, I'll tell you more as fast goes on. But if I'm going to upload anything involving Epstein, I have to be careful. And you should be too. Okay, because we're dealing with the elite pedophile cult right here. This right here, we're going to have to put aside our political bias. We will have to put aside our political bias when it involves Jeffrey Epstein, because both parties, Republican and Democrat, and other parties, are guilty in this. Okay, we can't not just blame Democrats, and we cannot just blame Republicans or independents of the Green Party, the Tea Party, whatever fucking party you belong to. We cannot just blame them. This has to be a bipartisan, unbiased study right here. Okay? I don't care if they're Republican or Democrat, conservative or liberal. If they're caught up in all this, they should be held accountable. Okay, from the president on down. That's just my take on this. But right now, I'm not calling for the prosecution of nobody. And I'm not right now, because I want to see facts, documentations, and court proceedings. Just because the FBI or any government agency is doing investigations doesn't mean they're guilty. And they've been kind of sloppy, I guess, on releasing these Epstein Files, stuff like that. But let me tell you, I said this in the past, I'll say it again. Having your picture taken with Jeffrey Epstein is not against the law. It is not. Okay. Now, it does look suspicious enough to do an investigation, but that's not against the law. That alone will not get you sent to prison. Because what I understand it, way out how I see this, how I see it, you know, you can take a picture with anybody you want to, unless that changes. So, you know, you can go around the streets and have a picture taken with a total stranger. That is legal. Okay? There's the exception there, like child. That's a whole different story. But I'm talking about a regular public photo with adults, basically just taking pictures of each other as friends. Okay? Or as enemies or as strangers. So people can do that. So just because you have your picture taken with Jeffrey Epstein doesn't mean you're guilty. Like you have your picture taken with Charles Manson, something like that, doesn't mean you're guilty of anything. All that means is you had your picture taken with Charles Manson, like you ran into the guy one time. You understand what I'm saying? It is suspicious and it's kind of odd, but yet that does happen sometimes. Okay, one interesting when the night John Lennon got assassinated, there's a picture of him and the guy who killed him, his assassin, right next to each other, taking a picture together. Okay, so just remember that. Okay, so please take everything you hear with Jeffrey Epstein with a grain of salt, regardless who it's coming from. But like I said, the best way to get information about the Epstein Files is study it yourself. Go to Infowars, bandvideo.com, Redacted, and Tim Pool. Next News Network is a good one, my opinion, you know. And Tucker Carlson, okay? Those are the ones that would be more straight up honest with you. And I think Nick Fuentes will be more straight honest with you as well. Okay? But the rest of them are just too damn biased. So I will not listen to them too much, all right? Now I'm going to stitch a video. It's going to be a long video. I apologize. But I do believe this is important information that we all should watch and look at. And like I said, every victim of Jeffrey Epstein and the Epstein Island, basically, Okay, they have a voice. They deserve to be heard, and we need to listen to them, okay? Peace out. See you later. Peace and bye-bye.
Breaking. The Justice Department just dumped another wave of Epstein files, about 3 million pages, weeks late, and with alarming privacy failures. Attorneys say images of survivors were left unredacted. Attorneys say names of survivors were left unredacted. At least 31 child victims identified in the trove. One lawyer called it patently absurd. Others are asking courts to pull the site down immediately, reporting thousands of redaction failures in the last 48 hours. Here's the huge elephant in the room. The thing Epstein was best at wasn't just exploitation, it was moving money. That financial machinery powered everything else. And now, as the network comes under scrutiny, the money trail is the map. Let me connect the dots quickly. Back in 2007, a prosecutor's memo listed charges Epstein could have faced. Conspiracy, sex trafficking of children, traveling to commit illicit sexual conduct. It also listed charges considered and rejected, including money laundering, citing possible credibility challenges. Imagine if the laundering angle had been fully pursued then. Fast forward. Senate investigators uncovered that Epstein moved $378 million through Bank of New York Mellon accounts, 270 wire transfers, with no legitimate business purpose identified. Patterns suggested structuring and classic laundering behavior. These weren't flagged to Treasury until 2019. That's not a broken smoke alarm. That's turning off the fire panel. And it wasn't just one bank. At JP Morgan, Epstein was part of an elite wall of cash. Compliance officers raised alarms. Executives allegedly tuned them out. Executives underreported suspicious activity. Executives even coached him on masking large cash withdrawals. The result? Over $1 billion processed before his 2019 arrest. Zoom out further. Newly surfaced documents show Epstein's interest in frozen Libyan state assets. Tens of billions during the 2011 turmoil. Emails talk about leveraging political chaos to identify and recover funds frozen in the West. When someone treats global instability like a spreadsheet opportunity, you're looking at the mindset of a launderer, not just a client. Why does this matter today? Because the financial rails are the control system. If money can slip past compliance, if relationships outrank red flags, networks like this thrive until the receipts spill out, and now they're spilling. 2 takeaways. First, protect the survivors now. The DOJ's redaction failures aren't a footnote, they're harm in real time. Take the site down, fix the process, notify anyone exposed. Second, follow the money with urgency and teeth. Subpoena trails, audit decisions, hold decision makers accountable inside banks, hold decision makers accountable inside government. I don't need a conspiracy to explain this. I need incentives. I need oversight. I need consequences. Close the gaps, and you close the playbook. This story isn't over. The documents are messy. The numbers are massive. The pattern is familiar, but that's the point. It's visible now. If we choose to look straight at it, the laundering, the enablers, the systemic failures, we can finally pull the plug on the power source.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Alex Jones Show. I'm your host, Harrison Smith. I'm in studio with the one and only Ian Carroll. You, of course, can follow him on X and YouTube at Ian Carroll Show, and you can go to canceliancarroll.com to find the latest. Ian, how are you, sir?
I'm good, man.
Are you drowning? I'm drowning. Are you drowning?
No shortage of work right now. Yeah, back home, I have 40 automated bots scraping the DOJ's website continuously for the last 2 days, trying to download 1 million plus files.
Yeah.
Still working.
It's a big, and I mean, this thing came out Friday, and since Friday, about every 2 minutes, there's a new bombshell story somebody discovers. Which is why I started the show yesterday explaining to people how you can go, find this, because you might have a piece of knowledge that nobody else has. You might notice a code word that nobody else notices. We need as many eyes on this as humanly possible. You're using AI to do it. What are you finding?
Well, in particular, because I couldn't help but notice that in the previous drops, they put them out with zip format downloads where you could easily download the whole batch. And in this one, for a lot of the files they put out, they did not put out a zip file download. And so a lot of it is actually kind of not downloadable if you don't know your way around a computer. I can't help but wonder if that's intentional, that they intentionally just like put out this batch of millions of pages of documents that are completely inaccessible to the average person, that you have to click through page by page, one at a time, opening them individually. So it's kind of a nightmare to look through. But that being said, I'm very impressed with all of the things that independent journalists have pulled out, how quickly they pulled them out. Like within the first hour, like I can't help but wonder if some people didn't have advanced knowledge or some stuff fed to them by like House Democrats or Republicans or something like in previous releases, because some people seem to have stories ready to go like hour
like
one.
right away.
It was incredible, like not knocking them at all. I'm just I was blown away.
You know, I think a lot of it is certainly just knowing the right keywords to search.
Absolutely.
Right? So you search the right keyword and you can start sourcing stuff really
Suddenly,
fast.
all of America is looking up Goy
Yeah.
on Google. Huh,
You
what
just
does
saw the
Goy
chart,
mean?
yeah. Going straight up. Yeah, a lot of people, coming to that revelation. And that's been some of the most damning stuff. Well, I don't even know if I should say that. I mean, the real most damning stuff is the torture videos and there is truly, so bird's eye view. What is your takeaway from everything that's been revealed? Like, is there anything that you're like, oh, that was an angle I was missing? Because to me, the way I've been describing is it feels like we've always had the black and white image. This is just filling in the color. Is there anything that like really stands out to you as like, holy cow, I had no idea this was happening?
Yeah, there's sort of two questions there. One, at least the way I'm hearing it.
Yeah.
One is big picture, like what are we learning as journalists? And for people that have been in the story for a long time, you know, we kind of knew. It depends on your threshold for evidence of what you like, how willing you were to speculate beforehand. Right. But if you had any willingness to speculate before now, you were expecting all of this, and you know that there's way more. This is just scratching the barest surface of what was actually going on.
Yes.
So it's not like I'm wildly surprised by the big picture of what we're seeing. There's way more. But there are a lot of like detailed elements and storylines, like this whole 4chan thing that is fascinating. Melania being deeply implicated directly in a bunch of emails is fascinating. That like things that aren't necessarily like I could have never seen coming, but are really kind of from left field, and in the detailed nature of them are looking more and more interesting. Kind of in the micro rather than the macro.
Yeah.
But I think for the average person, the average American, this drop specifically is a whole different level of bombshell.
I guess I never expected us to get a drop like this. 3 million files just dumped, and that may be part of the strategy. It's just overwhelming everybody. I do think you're right that, you know, they made a mistake last time doing the zip, because then people figured out that you could highlight and get away. So I think that was probably part of it. It was like, let's not let everybody download the original source files the instant they come out, because we may have made a mistake and might want to go in and re-censor stuff.
Mistakes, they've actually been taking files offline and back online. They've changed the data sets that are up a couple of times.
I've heard
12 disappeared and then reappeared. 9, I just got a text message like 30 minutes ago that document set 9, which is the biggest document set, that it actually was cut down by like 90% or more.
Oh, wow.
Just recently. Fortunately, everyone's already scraped it and already has it all. I don't know, like I haven't had time to check all that. I've been here in the studio, but
let me ask you this: is there anything that you've seen that? Do you think that this was released as a psyop? I guess is basically what I'm asking, because the way that I see this release, I don't think this was a psyop. I don't think this was some sort of, you know, fulfillment of a blackmail plan. It seems like, as crazy as this is, this was genuinely the DOJ responding to the law passed by Massey and Khanna.
I don't disagree like hard, like,
well,
I see your point.
I'm trying to figure out who it benefits. That key bono, I can't really answer.
Well, there's a couple of angles in that, the way that I would see it. One being, they are fucking up the redaction game all over the place. They literally are putting out unredacted information about victims, all sorts of personal information about victims. There was literally CP in this release.
Oh, wow.
Like unredacted CP, photos and videos, apparently, in the initial release. And there's victims that are going online right now that are talking about how they feel completely betrayed because their personal shit has been just plastered. Like, they're literally redacting the names of the conspirators, of people like Leslie Wexner, of suspects and Johns, and they're failing to redact the only thing they're actually legally supposed to redact, which is victim information. So from that perspective, it's already a psyop, just in terms of what they are hiding and who they're protecting. But in the truer nature of your question, this is obviously my speculation, my opinion, but I cannot help but wonder about the timing of this drop, because blackmail is a subtle art that walks in stages. It's not just like you have it or you don't, you release it or you don't. And this is not the blackmail. This is what the FBI collected in their pathetic, sad excuse for an investigation that was hamstrung, covered up, and bullshitted for 10 years or whatever. So the files that are getting released, are not actually the blackmail. They're just, sus. The actual blackmail is sitting in some vault over in Israel, and it's way fucking worse. It is way worse. It is endlessly worse. Like, imagine the worst claims that are in these emails, and then imagine those claims on video.
Right. Well,
and
we pointed out yesterday. I don't have it right in front of me, but one of the emails, somebody asks Epstein, "Hey, do you know anybody that can influence Bashar al-Assad?" And Epstein responds, "Not for email." So what we know is that there was a lot of stuff going on that they didn't discuss. So everything that you're seeing is what they didn't really care about.
That is a common pattern all throughout the Ehud Barak emails, all throughout these emails, is they kept all those important communications over the phone, or they used code and were getting vindicated on the Pizzagate code in these emails as well.
Even though with the Pizzagate code, they seem like they're really not trying. I mean, when you say, we have one slice for 7 people and we're going to torture it, it's like...
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
You're just
So to finish the question there is that releasing these files is in many ways like a soft push of a blackmail. Like, a lot could be done by forcing the release of these files right now to embarrass people that aren't playing ball with whoever wants you to play ball. I don't claim to understand everyone that is trying to push and pull on things right now, but I do know that, for example, Israel really wants Trump to go to war with Iran right now.
Right.
And we're in this really tense moment about war with Iran. And I can't think of any more embarrassing moment than his administration getting dropped in this bombshell and shitstorm right now. A whole bunch of the people that are implicated are tied up in Trump's political party. And so there's a lot of moving pieces that I find it hard to just dismiss the timing of all of this. Where I would just assume there's no ulterior motive, because we have no evidence that any of the people in charge have anyone's best interest at heart. We have no evidence that they actually care about the victims. We have no evidence that they ever were doing any of this altruistically. So I see no reason to believe suddenly that this drop doesn't have some ulterior motive behind it as well, when everything else has been fucked up from the start.
Yeah, that's true. And I have to ask you, we got to stop using 4-letter words because we're on the radio. I think we've used up our dump. So I politely ask that we keep
the Epstein files bring it out of me, and I forget.
I know. I completely understand. But yeah, no, you're exactly right about, the reason for suspicion here. It's just, I've heard like, okay, this is because Trump won't go to war with Iran. They're making good on their blackmail promise. But, a lot of the stuff about Trump is unconfirmed. It's rumors. I see so much more damaging information about Ehud Barak and Alan Dershowitz. And
this is a good point.
It is not hurting Trump nearly as much as it's hurting the Israeli networks, the Mossad networks that we know are operating.
It really is.
So I have trouble being like, they're gonna expose themselves to burn Trump. I don't get that.
I completely agree with that rebuttal. And I'm very curious to see how Benjamin Netanyahu tries to play it, because he's often tried to play this game of like, Ehud Barak is the bad guy and I'm the good guy. I'm the good Israeli prime minister.
Right.
And we actually have evidence from these drops and otherwise that he was actually meeting with Jeffrey Epstein and getting connected with, for example, Jeffrey Epstein connected Netanyahu to JP Morgan.
Right.
I think for me, the most striking thing about this drop is just how much evidence there is about basically everyone, everyone powerful in every direction, in every country. Like, there's a whole section of this that is directly Putin. Like, he was literally advising Putin on all his financial stuff. Not all, but like, I did not see that coming. Because Putin has been on his pulpit for the last 5 years. Like, the West is controlled by pedophiles. The West is all corrupt and evil. And if you were just to like back up and kind of like zoom out, it would be easy to be like, oh, Putin's based. But then you get into these files and you're like, wait a minute, bro, what? You can't do that. You can't play hanky panky with us like that. That's exactly what everyone else is doing.
See, I would a little bit disagree with that too, because Epstein clearly was friends with everybody, even the people that he was, targeting for blackmail and that sort of stuff. Because the stuff that I've seen about Putin and Zelensky, clearly it was the Rothschilds and Epstein were, conspiring about what to do when Ukraine falls, that they were obviously involved in. Maybe Putin was in on that, but
Yeah, it's not necessarily a friendly relationship.
Right.
I have not personally dug into all of the Putin stuff yet. I was just looking at that earlier today.
Well, and that's again where it gets a little bit confusing, or where like even the claims I'm not quite sure of, because it's like, okay, is Trump a victim of the blackmail? Is he in on it? I guess you could be both, and a lot of people obviously are. I mean, they're providing the blackmail willingly because they are on the same team. But I want to get back to the 4chan things. You brought that up, and that
stuff is crazy.
Is fascinating. So, and there's been a couple instances, like a couple examples of very interesting things where he's talking to Moot, who's the programmer of 4chan, is I think he sold it eventually, but at the time he was convinced to bring back the politics board as sort of a containment board by Jeffrey Epstein. At the same time, the Ghislaine Maxwell is a power mod on Reddit. But then there's this other 4chan post about the guy who first posted that Epstein had quote unquote killed himself, and actually said that he escaped to Israel. Yeah.
So 4chan is deeply tied into this story, and this reporting is still developing because there's so much complicated context that people have to triangulate between the date something was posted, the date the email was sent, the date of where people were where. But yeah, basically it starts to look more and more like Jeffrey Epstein may have been deeply involved in this sort of like alt-right upwelling of like online sort of spaces for this alt-right sentiment that then kind of spawned the Q stuff, kind of spawned a lot of the like pedophile hunting and like anti like pedophile ring stuff. Ghislaine Maxwell's presence on Reddit is a huge unknown quantity at this point, but it's definitely not a small quantity. And yeah, that other Reddit post that is sort of an unrelated tangent on 4chan of the person that, because 4chan is all anonymous, but an anonymous person comes on the day that Jeffrey Epstein commits suicide, before we've learned that he's committed suicide, and posts on this anonymous board, hey, they just brought in a van, they switched him out, he was in a weird cell, everything was weird. I think they just swapped Jeffrey Epstein out. I think, and it's like that was posted before he died. So there's all sorts of weird question marks around what exactly was the operation, what exactly was their purpose, what exactly were their hands in, and just more and more, it's everything. Like I just saw you got a photo of Steve Bannon.
Yep.
Close buddies with Steve Bannon, all the way to a whole bunch of Democratic people as well. Elon Musk wanted to be homies. It just seems to span in every direction. But
the 4chan one is particularly strange. Again, it's strange that he was involved in the administration of 4chan. Obviously, that's very, very bizarre. And I wonder if that didn't backfire on them, or if maybe the outcome was intended, right? Yeah, because I mean, it makes sense you'd want to create a containment board. And there's also emails in here where, like, during Pizzagate or during some of this stuff, they're talking about, well, let's start spamming fake stories just to muddy the water. I mean, you really get an insight into some of these strategies. But then, sort of separately, but also related to 4chan, is this. So the individual who anonymously posted on 4chan the morning of Epstein's death, August 10th, 2019, claiming he witnessed weird happenings at the prison before Epstein's death, has been identified in the Epstein Files. Roberto Girjalva, an officer at the Metropolitan Correction Center of New York, has been identified as the anonymous prison employee who posted on 4chan, claiming Epstein left his cell Friday evening shackled in a medical wheelchair, while at the same time an unauthorized trip van arrived at the prison, which he believed took Epstein away the night before the news broke of his death. And the reason why this is obviously he was right about the death happening. So, showing foreknowledge is evidence that he knows what he's talking about and is telling the truth. But then the Southern District of New York actually opened a grand jury proceeding and subpoenaed 4chan to find this guy's identity, which really confirms that what he was saying was true, because it wasn't just a random troll.
Yeah, very interesting. I actually didn't know that he had been identified through these documents publicly now, because
that's wild.
It wouldn't be the first P-file that had taken refuge in Israel. I had always kind of been. I'd always been of the stance that, like, when people said Epstein wasn't dead, I always kind of been of the stance of like, yeah, but they don't care about him. It's like they'd be perfectly happy killing him. It doesn't really matter. Like, he's a huge liability to leave alive. So I had kind of been 51 or 50 to 1, half dozen, whatever the expression is. But when you start to put that evidence all together, it does really look like he's probably still alive somewhere. Probably has a new face, right?
Yeah, I've been saying he's alive the whole time. There's the video of him on his island after he supposedly died. Have you ever seen that?
No, I don't think I have.
There's drone footage from Rusty Shackelford, and there's a guy that looks just like Jeffrey Epstein on his island while they were like cleaning it up and investigating it after his death. And he looks up and sees the drone and gets in a car and drives away. It looks just like him. So yeah, I've been saying, and it's sort of half a joke because you'll never confirm. It's never going to be. He's never going to like come out and be like, "You're right, I'm still alive." So I don't think we'll ever get confirmation. But why think that
if
he's
we had
dead?
a government half worth what it's supposed to be, that could even begin to do his job, we would actually get those answers. You know,
Yeah.
we would be getting so many answers because here's this there's all this salacious stuff. There's all these stories flying around, and you know it's all important. It is all important stories, and it's all important stuff to get into. But I think it is part of. There is a certain element of like get everyone lost in the weeds, just swamp it all up. Where like you can't forget to zoom back out and remember that they've had more than enough to go after all sorts of co-conspirators, all of this network for over a decade. They still have it today. They could still go after the Leslie Wexners of this world today, right now. They're not. And beyond that, this is just like 1% of what actual evidence was out there. At the time, they barely raided any of his properties. They gave him advanced knowledge of most of the raids that were happening, let them clear everything out. They never even went to the ranch, which is where a lot of the worst stuff probably happened. So we are looking at a you know, not even all the documents that they said they had. They said 6 million documents. Now we have like 3.5 million. And that is only a sliver of a pathetic investigation that was never really truly actioned on, which is still only an investigation actioned on a tiny sliver of the evidence that they should have collected in the first place based upon everything they could have gotten.
Well, I remember reports that they'd collected something like 40 terabytes of information.
That's what
from
they
Epstein.
said. Yeah.
Yeah. So
but a lot of it was digital devices and drives that they, not all of it, some of it they just collected straight up, but some of it they went and raided and actually were not allowed with their warrant to collect it all on the first pass, and a lot of it got left with him, and then they had to come back and collect it later, is my understanding.
This whole thing is such a scandal. I mean, it's like such a ridiculous saga of not ineptitude, but just basic corruption, and it clearly shows how thoroughly invaded our entire power structure is by this cabal of psychopaths. It is really troubling. So we'll get into all of that. Ian's here for the remainder of the hour. We're going to get into everything Epstein. But again, if this is shocking to you, if this is blowing your mind, just know we've been here for years, folks. It's fine. Calm down. Just because you're learning about it now doesn't mean it's all happening right now. You need to absorb this stuff, intake it. I'm not telling you not to treat it for what it is. I mean, if you're freaking out, I don't blame you in the slightest. This is crazy stuff. But don't go overboard. Understand, we've been here. We have understood this for a long time. We have already blazed the trail into understanding not just exposing this and who's involved and why they're involved, but what we do to combat it. The reason that we have this document dump is because of people like Alex Jones, organizations like InfoWars for 20 years pushing this and pushing the understanding that this is about basic national security, really, and all of these people are foreign spies that need to be dealt with so that we can continue to just have a normally functioning country. You can see how disruptive all of this has been. More with Ian Carroll on the other side. I do want to remind you, go to thealexjonesstore.com to support us. This is our victory, folks. Go celebrate at thealexjonesstore.com. Get yourself a knife. This is my everyday carry knife. We have 3 new styles on sale now at thealexjonesstore.com. Get them today, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. More with Ian Carroll on the other side.
We sell the best supplements, the widest selection of Patriot apparel, and knives at thealexjonesstore.com. And they've had some awesome daggers and awesome trench knives, and that's all great. But I said, I want a wide selection of high quality folding knives, flip knives, you name it. So people have a one-stop shop. They got in a few thousand knives a few months ago. They sold out very quickly. 4 or 5 great designs. They got a bigger shipment in just the last 2 days. Our sponsor, just really top flight knives. These knives, this knife right here you see in the green, highest quality Damascus steel, all of it. These sell in stores for $75 all day. We're selling for $40, 40-something bucks. Okay, so look at that flip. Flips right out. Got a nice little, my signature on it, real small, nice little memento. You support the broadcast. That is a really nice knife. It clips on your belt buckles. We have it in the green. We have it in the murdered out black. We have it also in silver without it being blacked out. Those are great knives. Those are the new designs. Now, those 200 left of the Skull Crusher World War II trench knife with the Spartan tip of the spear. So they held those back. Those are available. A little bit left they held back in their overstock of the Fire with Its Beauty. But this is a really cool knife. Alex Jones Phantom folding knife. Limited stock of that came back in. Also, the Alex Jones burnt orange folding knife, and this is the knife that sold out the quickest fitting knife. They got 500 of these, 1,000 now just came in. The first one sold out like in hours. Alex Jones ring blade. I guess those are popular. This is something I didn't really call for, but it's awesome. Got that ring on the back, got the deal. It's really nice. Those are all back in stock right now at thealexjonestore.com. But while you're at it, get methylene blue, Irish sea moss, and more. And check out the Patriot Apparel, thealexjonestore.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Alex Jones Show. I'm your host, Harrison Smith, sitting in for Alex today. Ian Carroll in studio with me. We are, of course, talking about the Epstein file release. You can follow Ian on X at Ian Carroll Show, and you can go to canceliancarroll.com, where you are a node in the information or in the human intelligence network, and you serve kind of as we do in InfoWars as like an aggregator. A lot of people, suggest things to you, or when you do live streams, people are participating along with you. And then you're making AI bots to help scan all of this stuff. What do we do next? Where do we go from here? Because we have all this information, and it feels like if the release is the last thing that happens, all this is getting us used to it. All this is going, yeah, this is the way the world works, and now deal with it. That cannot be the outcome of this. That cannot be the conclusion. I kind of go back and forth on this because there's two answers that I think are both very important and true. And the first one, which can't be the whole one, is that information is important, and it is important that everybody gets informed, because you see all the time with protests in America. You got a couple examples right now. We had a couple examples going back through 2020 and before, where if you start protesting with half the information, you're basically actually just a sheep for someone else to control. Right. And if you go out there to protest without understanding what the real problem is, what the real root is, what's really going on, actually you're probably just playing someone else's game for. You're going to make it get worse. You're going to make it worse. Yeah, you're just a sitting duck for the CIA, Mossad, whoever else wants to get into your protest, whatever. So it's very important that Americans get fully informed about the issue, about the depth of the issue, about actually who's behind it, actually what's going on, and who's actually compromised, and spread the word and talk about it and dig these stories up, and independent journalists do this work. That's very important. But it can't be all of it, right? We do need political action. We do need accountability. And unfortunately, it looks like the vast majority of the politicians that are in right now are asleep at the wheel, complicit, blackmailed, bribed, whatever. With, at least the exceptions of Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna, who we should applaud till the end of days. Marjorie Taylor Greene as well, even though she's not there anymore. So they should get all of our support in every way, across the aisle, because they are Republican and Democrat working together for everyone's benefit. And I think we should be keeping notes on everybody that, impeded it, everybody that talked, that stood in the way of it, or that flip-flopped once it was convenient about it. And we should vote them all out. We should basically at this point vote out all incumbents, because the only way that I really see, and this is just my opinion, but the only way that I really see change happening is the old guard all getting voted out. Every votable position needs to leave, and we need young, new blood that is fresh, that grew up in this era of corruption and in this era of transparency, or at least the desire for it. We need them in there to at least have, a couple good eggs in the basket, because right now it looks like there's only two. Right? And they're doing everything they possibly can to drive those two out, including with Thomas Massie. He's got 3 Zionist billionaires funding his opponents that are also featured in the Epstein Files quite a few number of times. So not a coincidence. If I could say one thing to the American people about it, it's like political action, great. Like journalism and information action, great. But the real heart of the thing is like the people, is the collective of the people. And I cannot... I get so disheartened when I see the left and the right fighting over this issue online and continuing to, and this is not an accident. This is like the number one way to psyop this space right now, is to get you fighting over whether is it Trump or is it Clinton? Is it the Dems or is it the Reps? Is it the Reds or is it the Blues? And it's like, shut up. It's all of the elite pedophiles. It's all the billionaires. It's all those pieces of trash. It's all of them.
we should be coming together on this issue. We can all agree that protecting children from pedophiles is good, and that pedophiles should be not anywhere near our government, probably underneath the dirt. And so if there's, I just wish that we could at least move forwards on the idea of this should bring us together. And if we're, there's right-wing protests right now, there's left-wing counter protests right now, or, flip those. If there's any time in American history for us to be protesting all together about one thing, this is it.
100%. And I'd say the same thing when it comes to like Jews versus Gentiles. It's like everybody should be able to call this out. Everybody.
100%.
There's no reason why you as a Jew should be going, but they're Jewish, so do I really? Like, no, if you can't call this out, that's on you, frankly. You got to be able to. Everybody should be able to call this out. Everybody should be able to point to what we see in these emails as horrifically evil and the power structure that controls it. Extremely manipulative. Don't fall for it, because obviously I always talk about the phrase where it's like if we say, George Soros is evil, and then you got George Soros sitting there and he turns to like the Jewish baker next to him and is like, "Do you hear that? He said he wants to kill you. You got to go defend me from him." And it's like, don't let them use you as body armor. These people are evil, they're bad, and they're making things bad for you, so do not cover for them.
You actually bring up such an important point with that. That's like one of the most critical points for not just Jewish people to talk about, not just non-Jewish people to talk about, for everyone to kind of like come to grips with and parse apart for ourselves, is just this realization that like it's not. The problem is not that they are Jewish people running this pedophile ring. The problem that creates this behavior, that creates this criminality, is the Jewish supremacy, right? It's the belief that they, as a race, as a people, are better than everybody else. And these particular Jewish billionaires are Jewish supremacists. 100%. But the average Jewish person that's just a regular dude that just believes in everyone else and is just trying to be a regular human, they don't have these beliefs, and so they don't traffic children to billionaires, right? And supremacist ideology, no matter where it crops up, is evil. It just so happens that we have a particularly strong strain of it that comes all the way down from the Rothschild family that's funded a country and an intelligence agency and this whole network of global systemic control, and it's on full display. And if there's any time for the world to realize it and to wake up to it, it's now. But it's also an incredibly precarious time, as you point out, because let's just be honest, there's a lot of experience in the media base that those Jewish supremacists control of pushing the pushback against them over the edge into actually really useful propaganda for themselves, where if they can push you over the edge into like, oh, they're going to do a Holocaust to us, oh, they're going to do this to us, suddenly they're very good at actually manipulating all of that and using all of the media companies that they have a lot of control over to actually use you to their own end. So you have to be very careful in this media environment of how you engage with it, but that doesn't mean you don't engage with it. It doesn't mean you don't talk about it. It doesn't mean you don't acknowledge it, because it is full display, and it is very much running our country right now.
Yeah, here's the secret, y'all. Here's the cheat code. I'm about to give it to you. You treat Jews like everyone else.
Crazy.
I know, mind-blowing. You don't target them because they're Jews. You don't not target them because you just treat them like any other group. And if their religious proclivity, if their ethnic designation is part of what inspires them to do, as part of the reasoning behind their actions, then it's valuable to talk about and investigate and determine, how wide this impact can be. This is normal. Don't be scared, folks. It's all fine. But also don't go overboard, because that's the other thing that people do, and it's negative outcomes.
In this case, it's a great example, and that's a great way to put it. Is that it's scary to talk about, because there's a lot of racial tension around Judaism and around our education in America, around the Holocaust, around World War II, all that stuff. But organized crime has always been racial. Organized crime is always organized racially, because you need those ties that bind. If you're going to do something illegal together, someone's going to get caught eventually, and you need them to be more loyal to you and whatever tie binds you all together than they are to their own skin. And that's always been blood. That's why the mafia is Italian, the Yakuza is Japanese, the mob is Jewish, the Bratva is Russian. That's always how it's been.
The pirates are Somali.
Right? And
but
so,
for real, yeah.
So it's like, just remember that it's no big deal to realize that when you're looking at the world's largest criminal trafficking ring we've ever known of, it's no wonder that it's racially organized. And in this case, it's racially organized around Jewish supremacists that, live in the country of Israel. Many of them were involved in founding the country of Israel. And they are very good at what they do. They've realized that control and power is a thing you can push and you can manage and you can extort and influence. And there's nothing better than creating let's say a system whereby corrupt people are incentivized to rise, and they are given opportunities to rise, and you find and manage those corruptions, and you feed those corruptions with the vices that they desire. And then as they rise into their positions of power, you've got those vices already hooked on your lines. And over the years, that system just ingrains deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper until we get to where we are now, where most of these industries are just completely gridlocked by these corrupt by these blackmail parties, by these white parties, by these, island goers, whatever it is. It's just kind of the status quo at this point.
And it doesn't even necessarily have to be an established orchestration of plan. It's just a natural consequence of having corrupt people in positions of power. Jeffrey Epstein's not about to hire anybody that he even whiffs that they might be a moral and upstanding person. Why would he want them anywhere near him? He's just not going to hire them. So you get a powerful person that's corrupt, they're only going to surround themselves with other corrupt people just out of sheer self-preservation. It's, they don't need to think about it too much. It's just how they're going to act on instinct.
It's just natural incentive structures. And, just think about the parties that you go to when you were back in high school or college or whatever. When you went to that party, you're at the party, suppose you're throwing a party, you want to invite people that are similar to you. And if suppose you're really into drinking, but you don't do hard drugs, you don't really invite the hard drug doers to your party. But then if you invited a bunch of really straight-laced Mormon kids to your party, you might feel a little uncomfortable by how they're not quite into what you're into, and you're 14 beers deep, and the Mormon kid is kind of there this is weird, and you're like, someone get this square kid out of here, right? Now imagine that you're a pedophile that likes to eat babies, and you won't really want a normal person at your party. And so when you get enough of those people at the tops of these structures, throwing these parties, hanging out at these parties, having a great time doing their thing, being free to run the world, they don't really want to invite regular folks into those parties. So they really just like to keep it in the house, keep it in the family, in the club, get your red shoes, get your panda eyes, whatever, do your little symbolism, eat your pizza, do whatever it is they do, right?
Yeah, I think you're smart. I think you're pulling one over on everybody. We all know exactly what you're up to. And that to me is a really satisfying thing about this, is all of these scumbags that just think they're above everybody, and then it's revealed they're all just these ugly, creepy rapists that they suck, man. And this to me is one that's gone a little underreported, but is huge, I think. Well, there's a couple things. First of all, just sticking with the topic that we were talking about, Epstein and Mark Fisher have a conversation on the difference between a Jewish and non-Jewish soul. Quote, a Jewish soul has a very different structure, has different higher levels, relates to itself and other people in a different manner than the non-Jewish soul. So when we're talking, this isn't just off the cuff, I don't do that, that's for goyim, just because I could even see non-racist people making jokes like that or whatever, not to downplay it, but this is actual sincere discussion, actual intellectual conversation about how Jewish people's souls are more valuable than non-Jewish. I interact with a lot of truly white supremacist communities. I've never heard anything like this from them. They'll be like, well, black people are dumber, but they're good at sports and we like their music. It's that's as radical as you'll get. This is sincere, genuine discussion about the value of souls and that Jewish souls are more valuable. That's incredibly creepy and very deep supremacy, not just surface level stuff.
I mean, it's the unfortunate truth is that when you look at Israel's history of how they've treated other races, though, how they treated the Ethiopian Jews, for example, when you start to learn that history, it's not that surprising that the people that are the richest, most powerful people in the Israeli established order, the people that are running their secret trafficking networks, it's no surprise that they're holding these deeply racist beliefs, because it's kind of par for the course over there, and it's going to be most par for the course where it's the people that are the most abhorrent, evil ones among them. But that being said, you're right that it is at a way deeper level than just some surface racism. And it's at a deeper level than just religiously we were promised this or we are better than you. It's at the level where that is actually how they are excusing their actions. That is how they're trafficking these people, is they don't see them as people. It really does harken back to chattel slavery in a lot of ways. Right? Or the exact same justifications.
Yeah, or any sort of, massacre during war. It's a lot easier to burn a village down if you think the people there aren't technically human.
Yeah, there's also a really dark side to it, too, that I think about frequently, unfortunately, that you never really hear about brown kids in this network. No,
you do hear about them. They say none, please.
Exactly.
Yeah, no N-words, please. Yeah,
exactly. And you can't help but put two and two together and realize that this is just the nature of the trafficking world, unfortunately, is that there's different prices for different types of kids.
Of course.
And that they value white kids more highly because of sort of the innocence and degradation to the white race that's doing, of sort of this racial hatred thing. And when you start to put two and two together of how they're talking about different races and the types of people that they're targeting, because this is a power thing, a taking of innocence thing, it's like it's a racial violence in a certain way when you look at their racial perspective. And you start to put two and two together of what that means about this trafficking network's perspective on white people, on America.
When these people are talking about this in private and they're also running the biggest industries, you don't think that has an impact on how they're making business decisions?
100%.
It has to inform it.
Well, for example, Ronald Lauder, the head of the
world. He's the president of the World Jewish Congress,
right.
heir to the Estee Lauder fortune.
Estee Lauder fortune is a beauty company. When you dig deep enough into their history, let's just say you find organized crime right next door. But the Lauders have been deeply tied into the Epstein network, the Mega Group network, the Leslie Wexner network for a long time, exactly. So the Lauders, certainly very suspicious family, lots of suspicious ties. But now his son-in-law, is my understanding, is the new... apparently going to be the new head of the Federal Reserve. And Ronald Lauder, also, you can find him very recently speaking on the internet, live TV, about how we need censorship laws. It was at one of these many Jewish conferences that seem to happen literally every day now, where he's speaking to all these Jewish people about how we need to be putting Americans in prison for all this horrible, hateful speech, like, the speech we're doing right now, reading of factual information, that kind of stuff. So Ronald Lauder, the heir to this, like, totally not criminal Estee Lauder company that was deeply aligned with Epstein and this whole faction, head of the Jewish Congress, son now about to be head of the Federal Reserve. He is of this supremacist ilk, and he's out there advocating for the censorship of American speech on behalf of, I mean, his buddies, the Epstein network, these Jewish billionaires and whatever they want to do. So that's where it's like, wait. Hold up, America. Why does this person have any power whatsoever? Why do they have a stage? Why is his son-in-law being put in place to run the Federal effing Reserve? That kind of stuff I have serious questions and concerns about, because it kind of looks like Israel's on a timeline here. It kind of feels like we are racing towards a finish line, right? Whether it's war with Iran, whether it's this greater plan to destroy and rebuild the temple, I don't know.
Actually, yesterday, a Israeli minister put out a post on social media where he's, inspecting the red heifers that they plan to sacrifice at the rebuilding of the new temple. So that's definitely part of it. And so I just put out a video called "The Eighth Front." It's on my X at Harrison H. Smith. We're going to play the first 5 minutes of it in the first 5 minutes of the next hour. But it gets into all of this, and it gets into Ron Lauder, the World Jewish Congress, demanding not just censorship, but total command over the entire education system, K through 12 plus colleges. And he's saying every single person in every seat of government, Congress and the Senate, has to be subservient to us. And if they're not, we will not only destroy them, we will fund their opponents, which is what they're doing with Thomas Massie. So, I mean, they're saying all of this openly, and there is a timeline. And it's really, run by Netanyahu, who basically is like, we have an opportunity here to seize total control over America and the West. And they consider, according to Benjamin Netanyahu, he's like, we're at war with Rome, and America is the new Rome. We lost last time. We're not going to win. We're not going to lose this time. So, I mean, all of this is directly involved and is, by their own words, what they're engaged in. Interesting, the video that's gone viral with Ron Lauder recently was from 5 years ago, where I think he's like the orange background. Yeah, and he's saying, we have to have anti-Semitism laws. People have to go to jail for this. That was in 2020. So that was 3 years before October 7th. Cool. And he was saying it way before it was cool. And he was also the one that wanted to change anti-Semitism. He was like, we got to stop saying that. We got to start saying Jew hatred, because they realized anti-Semitism had sort of lost its oomph in the time being. So, like, these are very important, powerful, rich, like, influential people that clearly are motivated by racial animus against the country that they, are supposedly citizens of.
You're absolutely right that they are on a timeline and they're marching towards it, and it's a very organized thing. And I forget what made me think of it, but like the TikTok purchase is directly in line with this. Like they are actually purchasing American media organizations. They are purchasing American social media organizations. They're speaking out loud and openly about why they're doing it and what they're doing. The ADL is just coming out mask off in a lot of these cases. It really is like an all front assault. And I think for a while, people that were vocal about the Israel relationship online kind of got this question of like, why are you so obsessed with the Israel relationship? But I think if anything, these Epstein files and the acceleration of this issue, this question, this Jewish supremacist sort of ideology and what its implications are, they put it on full display that like, well, I mean, when a nation like that declares war on you like this, when they subvert your whole political system by, you know, sexually blackmailing all of your politicians, your businessmen, everything, it's like, what do you not focus on that and you know, excise that? Because the unfortunate thing that kind of comes up when you really look at the whole scope of this is people like the Ron Lauders of this world, people like the Benjamin Netanyahus of this world, by sort of declaring war on Western culture in that way, by declaring war on America, by trying to subjugate American people to Jewish supremacism like that supremacist ideology, then the whole world only has two options. Either you fight back or you acquiesce. And it's like, no, F that, we're not going to acquiesce. And so you inherently create the exact
response that they
that
self-fulfilling thing.
The prophecy from which your entire Israeli identity is born is this like, so it's like, what are you guys doing?
But the beautiful thing is we can recognize that and avoid it. Because I talk about this all the time. You know, David Irving is a great example where you can watch him give speeches and you can watch in chronological order. And he starts off going, you know, there are these Jewish groups that are really mad at me, but I didn't intend anything. And like, just calm down, guys. But then like progressively, he's like, they're still attacking me. They're coming at. And so by the end, he's on a tour through Canada. By the end of his tour, he's going, our enemies have once again, you know, raised their fist against me. And it's like, oh, and no blaming David Irving. He's a genius and a brilliant historian, but he sort of falls into the trap. He sort of goes, okay, the Jews are attacking me. Bring it on, Jews. And then everybody goes, wow, look at this anti-Semitic guy. You know, we better not listen to him. So it's like, you don't need to fall into that trap. And again, I'm also not saying this is what we really believe, but don't say it out loud. It's like, no, you have to understand the hatred itself is valuable, is what they're trying to create. Don't give it to them. Understand this back and forth, tit for tat. I see it now with the anti-Israel people that are like, we should just kill all the Israelis. And it's like, guys, this is the feedback loop. It's the Nazis and the Israelis and the Islamicists, and it's just like back and forth. The only thing that breaks it is to shatter it and go, I see exactly what you're doing. I'm not going to fall for it. I'm also not going to submit myself to you. You can shut the hell up and go away if you don't like it, but I'm not going to fall into the racial hatred that you're clearly intent on inspiring in the rest of us. It's not going to happen.
It's actually the exact same tactic that works on the schoolyard with a 7-year-old bully. It's really no different than when you are a child and a kid comes up and starts bullying another kid. And, you know, parents watch this all the time. Teachers watch this all the time, that if the kid being bullied reacts to the bully, it creates this feedback loop of what the bully was actually looking for in the first place. And often the more manipulative and intelligent bullies actually can play off of that and can create these sort of manipulative cycles. Whereas the kid that's actually self-aware and is just like, no, like whatever, dude.
Yeah.
Like that kid is unbullyable. And when you're talking about a whole nation, a mature nation, you know, one of the greatest nations on earth, all it requires is for us to rise up and understand our power and understand the subversion that is happening within our midst, and to, you know, excise, like burn out the rot that it is at the core, and to actually do something about these P files that are in here, and to not submit to this. You know, don't stop your free speech. Don't stop talking about it. Don't stop being a free citizen, but also be the type of free citizen that you'd want to be. Be a free American that fights for goodness and for righteousness, right?
And just don't be cowed by social pressure to lie, or to not say what you know to be true. Also, don't cow to pressure to like condemn people that don't deserve it. Just think for yourself, folks. And you know, my classic saying, love everybody, trust nobody, and don't give anybody a pass, and don't target anybody for things that they can't control, like the condition in which they were born. Can you stay for another 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I feel like we're having a good time. And I want to go to a video again. In the beginning of the first 5.
I want to watch part of this video.
We'll watch the first 5. Y'all will want to watch all of it. I am very proud of this video, and maybe we'll show some clips from it. But certainly the first 5 do, again, give some context to what we're talking about here, the universal nature of this, and sort of the bipartisan way that this stuff is pushed. So Ian Carroll will stay with me. Thank you for the next 30 minutes. I am going to be joined by Doc Pete Chambers in the 4th hour, so he'll be coming on at 2. But we'll continue to talk about Jeffrey Epstein and also the way Jeffrey Epstein may himself have been responsible for the destruction of Palmyra, a famous ancient city of beautiful, irreplaceable treasures of humanity destroyed by ISIS. Likely Epstein was responsible for that, and we'll tell you about that. But we'll do a sneak preview of the 8th front on the other side. You got to go to thealexjonesstore.com. I'm doing such a bad job plugging because there's so much information. Thealexjonesstore.com. Go there. Get Ultramethylene Blue if you haven't tried it. Celebrate with us at thealexjonesstore.com/Harrison if you want to let them know who sent you. More with Ian Carroll on the other side. Don't go anywhere.
Now, this new product is incredible. It's from our sponsor, Bigley, at thealexjonesstore.com. Optimal Human, you love the green powder super nutrient, the very best out there. Well, this is Optimal Human Nootropic called Mind Fuel. Introducing Mind Fuel, a super healthy, super strong energy nootropic adaptogen, which doesn't make you sick, doesn't have a letdown. It is incredible. Not just a few of the bottles. Look how many bottles are in there. And I only drink about half a bottle a day. It's so strong. But look at that right there, ladies and gentlemen. So that's what comes in each box of this. And it is simply amazing. Optimal Human Nootropic Mind Fuel is here. This clean, caffeine-free energy shot is designed for clear thinking, steady focus, and zero compromise. It's time to abandon sugary energy drinks and stimulant-heavy formulas in favor of clean, functional, nootropic-based energy. 0 calories, sugar-free, no crash, no blood sugar spike. Can be used daily without any guilt. Caffeine-free formula, smooth, clean energy, ideal for caffeine-sensitive users and late-day use. It's also got all these other incredible compounds like citicoline, alpha GPC, GABA, supports mental clarity and focus. It appeals to both biohackers and holistic consumers. High-quality electrolytes and B vitamins. More than a brain shot, true functional fuel. Optimal Human Nootropic Mind Fuel, that's the name of the product, isn't just another energy product. It's a smarter alternative for consumers who demand clarity, control, and clean performance without compromise. Get 25% off for life when you become a subscriber. Canceling time for free. Get Mind Fuel now at thealexjonesstore.com. And if you've never tried the original superfood greens, Optimal Human, you really want to get this as well. It's the best green food I've ever had at thealexjonesstore.com. The widest selection of Patriot apparel, all sorts of cool collectible knives and more. And that's what funds us, and that's what does this. And I really appreciate your support because I can't do it without you. So I want to commend and thank the listeners. But just like I steered you right on gold and silver 2.5 years ago, I got out of the market before that. I said, now's the time. I was totally right. Just like I steer you right on politics. These products are incredible. Get our Ultramethylene Blue. It is the best in the market. Our Shilajit is the best. Our Irish Sea Moss is the best. Our turmeric is the strongest. Ultimate Turmeric. TheAlexJonesStore.com. You are missing out. You don't get it. I want to thank those that have supported. I want to challenge those that haven't. What are you waiting for?
Just what I needed for my morning jog.
Working 12 to 13 hours a day, Mind Fuel keeps me on my toes and in the action.
Try this energy shot for a boost like no other. Power your mind and body today.
I think there's another revolution coming. I tend to steer it along with the achievement of a broader peace. When history is within reach.
So what Israel is fighting here is not merely a 7-front war, but an 8-front war. For the Jews against Rome. Rome and Jerusalem clashed over values with a great tragedy for the Jewish people. Well, we lost that. I think we have to win the next one. But the new Rome, the United States, Jews against Rome.
We stopped playing defense and have moved to offense.
The weapons change over time. You can't fight today with swords. That doesn't work very well.
But we need the kind of genius that manufactured Apollo gold pagers and infiltrated Hezbollah for over a decade to prepare for this battle.
But we have to fight with the weapons that apply to the battlefields in which we're engaged. And the most important ones are social media.
Because the next war will be decided based on how Israel and its allies perform online as much as offline.
This is the 8th front. the disinformation campaign.
It is actually this eighth front where our enemies believe they can actually defeat the Jewish state.
This is the kind of ingenuity and inventiveness that have always been a hallmark of the state of Israel, that have always been a characteristic of the Jewish people. I know we can do it.
A lot of this is done with money.
Invested billions and billions of dollars in the information battlefield.
Money of NGOs, vast. Money of governments, vaster.
We prohibit harmful stereotypes about Jewish people, such as claims that Jews control financial, political, or media institutions.
You're damn right we're going to cancel them and deplatform them.
We monitor them online, social media, messaging apps, video games, cryptocurrency,
Hitler admirers, Stalin admirers, Jew haters,
podcasts, short form video, Wikipedia, LLM.
American haters, Churchill haters.
We monitor these people and we share the intelligence with the FBI.
You think your stupid little podcast is going to change the world? Like hell it is.
Social media, this is the new battlefield.
You don't get to wrap your psychotic, mental, unhinged Nazi.
We do not allow Holocaust denial and distortion.
And the most important purchase that is going on right now is
TikTok.
TikTok. TikTok, number one.
For every 30 minutes that someone watches TikTok, they become 17% more anti-Semitic.
So you have TikTok just smashing our young people's brains all day long with video of carnage in Gaza.
We really have a TikTok problem.
Because anything that we try to say to them, they are hearing it through this wall of carnage, and I sound obscene.
Anti-Zionism is just Jew hatred.
We made a change.
We updated our policies
to designate the use of the term Zionist
to recognize that the term Zionist
as a proxy for a protected attribute
can be used as a proxy for Jews and Israelis
as hate speech.
Why can't Israel be doing some sort of, counterintelligence?
Right now, the ADL is co-writing Sunday school curriculum.
Information warfare like this.
It's building the technology to train the LLMs more effectively.
Like a psychological operations in America.
As part of a robust framework to combat anti-Semitism, we have industry-leading policies designed with the safety of the Jewish community in mind.
You're right, we control the media. So what are you going to do about it? You're going to bitch on Twitter? Like, okay. Meanwhile, we're going to control more of the media.
And working with OpenAI, with Alphabet, with Anthropic, with Meta, with Microsoft, we are working with them now to train the LLMs.
We also have, I think, over 24 Jewish organizations that are constantly feeding us intelligence and information.
So number one, we measure and track. Number two, we monitor and disrupt. We have a whole apparatus. I have 40 analysts working full-time, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, monitoring extremists.
Monitoring campuses, digital networks, activist groups, and public officials.
We have several PhDs on staff. We have a network of academics and scholars we work with around the country.
I've talked to the leaders of AI in the world, and you ask yourself, there's so many blessings in this, but there could be a curse.
First thing a country needs to do is to unify all of their data so it can be consumed and used by the AI model.
We need to invest in intelligence to understand who are the anti-Semites, who's funding them, what's their plans, who are the leaders, and then once we have that, we can define who is an enemy we can attack.
All right, find that full video on my X at Harrison H. Smith. More with Ian Carroll on the other side. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Alex Jones Show. I'm your host, Harrison Smith, sitting in for Alex today. Ian Carroll has been kind enough to lend us more of his precious time. Ian Carroll can be followed on X at Ian Carroll Show and canceliancarroll.com. You also have the Buyer app, which is fantastic. But I do want to take a moment, and forgive me, to talk about some of the products we have at thealexjonesstore.com, because I have not done a good job plugging today. Optimal Human is a superfood greens drink mix. There are lots of these. They're all pretty popular. This is the best. This is the best one. It's Optimal Human. It's a green drink. It tastes like green tea. I put a scoop in, glass of cold water, and lemon juice. Add a little lemon juice to it. It's actually delicious.
Lemon juice is actually wicked with it.
It's really
cool
good.
What it does, yeah, it transforms the whole flavor. It's delicious.
It is. It tastes like a good green tea, and it's refreshing. It's not something that you're going to drink and it tastes like powder or something.
I like slipping a little energy drink into my greens too. I do a little lemon juice, a little energy drink with a scoop or two of that.
That might be too much, because actually what happened was I had this at home and I was like, I haven't been eating very healthily today. I'll take a scoop. But the problem was I did it at like 8 o'clock at night, and I was up till 4 in the morning. I didn't realize how much energy this stuff gives you. So, you know, if you can handle it, maybe take it at night, but maybe in the morning is better because it really gives you incredible energy, and it's from Optimal Human. It's available at thealexjonesstore.com. And we also have a new product from Optimal Human that we can hardly keep on the shelf. Mind Fuel Nootropic Energy Shot, also from Optimal Human. It's just a fantastic caffeine-free, sugar-free, no jitters energy shot. And we got a couple of boxes of these into the office, and then they all disappeared. The next day, there were like none of them because everybody was plundering them. So if you want to try one, you can have one. But we're not supposed to be drinking these because we keep running out, because we love the products, and you will too. TheAlexJonesStore.com. Keep us on the air, keep us in the fight, and really help yourself. It is a true 360 win, fantastic products, and it goes to support this singular outlet for truth, justice in the American way. Infowars.com. Go to thealexjonesstore.com to support us. Now, we just showed a little clip, about 5 minutes from a longer compilation that I did. That, again, I just tried to use people's own voices as they talk about. In the beginning, I just found it so sort of disturbing that you have Benjamin Netanyahu saying, we're going to fight Rome again, and America is the new Rome. And it's just like, this is not good. It's not all right. It's not okay that we have these people like Jonathan Greenblatt of the ADL with this like unquestionable position to direct the FBI in America. I mean, it's crazy. And the whole video is about 15 minutes long. You've only seen a third of it. You can go to my Twitter at Harrison H. Smith and watch it. It's my new pinned tweet. But this is it. It's sort of like they're coming out in the open. And in fact, there's a clip at the end that if you watch this, it's going to blow your mind. But it's a guy who runs the Tikva Fund, if you're familiar with that. And he says, in no uncertain words, he says, basically, this whole American Jewish experiment is over. And he says, Jews have never been normal. And for a couple decades, we've been able to live in comfort in America. But that was a holiday from our destiny. And it's time to reclaim our destiny and remember that being Jewish is the most important thing. And so it's this declaration to his fellow Jews saying, abandon America, forget America, you're on our team, not the American team. And I find that really sickening from a fellow American.
Absolutely. And it's, I'm told it's an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory that Jews would be more loyal to another nation rather than their own. We had that very much drilled into us. It's actually being slow walked into law in America that if you suggest that is illegal. And so it's not only is it a betrayal of his own country, and not only is it a betrayal of American values, and a betrayal of their own word to everyone else about what they wanted, you know, how they wanted to be treated in the global community, but it's also kind of a betrayal to other Jews, because that's the thing about being a diaspora community, is that all Jewish people are reliant on each other for how they're going to represent their diaspora community. And if all Jewish people are good Samaritans that get along well, that are great, you know, members of their communities and their nations that they live in, then that's great. And they're all welcome citizens and all that. But if there's a whole bunch of them that are actually being loyal to another nation, that are subverting the nations they're in, that are running pedophile sexual blackmail rings, then they're actually subverting their own national identity as Jewish people abroad and ruining it for all the other regular Jewish people. And it's horrible.
Absolutely. And it's a lie, by the way, this idea that like, oh, America was good for us, but that's going away now. And we have to, you have to flee to Israel. I mean, there are multiple people, again, billionaires, heads of companies that are saying, literally they're saying you can stay in New York and be a part of the dying empire, or you can come to Israel and be a part of the rising empire. And it's like, that is such a betrayal of America. And it's not true about this idea that like, oh, well, it's just, we're going to, Jews are not safe in America anymore. That's not true. Now, if you have a bunch of Jewish leaders like openly talking about trying to destroy America, okay, it's not going to go well for you, but that's them. That's Eric Cohen of the Tikva, the president of the Tikva Foundation.
It's such a self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Exactly. So it's a lie. Jews have been treated amazingly in America for their entire existence here, and it's been a great thing. But now these people basically want to convince you that you have to flee with them and give your power to them and invest in their companies because it's too dangerous in America. It's a lie.
They're the protected class in America right now. They're the ones that have speech laws protecting them. They're the ones that have the DOJ investigating people that say mean things about Jews on college campuses in random places. They are very much the ones that are running the show right now in terms of their cultural dominance. So it's like, no, it's not that America is becoming inhospitable to you. America's waking up to, things like this and things like those statements, things like that these, Jewish billionaires and elites are saying, but but like being treated just like everyone else. I'm sorry. Yeah. If that's the big downfall is, oh no, you have to be treated like everyone else. You have to be equal in America, the land of equality. Boo-hoo. Maybe America's not for you. Maybe you should move back to Israel and go and do your own little thing over there. Just don't come over here and tell us how to live our lives and what we can and can't speak about.
Exactly. And look, this applies not just to Jews, but to everybody. I'd say the same thing with Somalis. And of course, it's the same thing that, Black Lives Matter will do is they tell black people, oh, everybody they might seem nice at first, oh, the white people, might act nice to your face, but they all hate you behind the scenes. Actually, everybody in America is super racist and they're just hiding it from you. I mean, it is a well-developed strategy of racial inclusivity and exclusivity that is very useful to people who don't want humanity united.
And it is repeatedly used by subversives.
100%.
Be those intelligence agencies, crime groups, other factions. It's COINTELPRO 101. Group people up, divide them on race, divide them on all these other things. Anything but class. Divide them on anything but class. Because, can't have the people looking up at our overlords that are trafficking our children. It's concerning and uplifting to watch America kind of wake up to this Israel question all at once, and it's happening in rapid succession. It's a little uncomfortable because it can go so many ways wrong, and it's inspiring Israel and wealthy and powerful Jewish people to do a lot of erratic and dangerous things with their influence and power.
Which is so strange because literally, if I could sit down with some Jewish billionaires and talk to them, I'd be like, the solution is very, very simple. Help America. We use your incredible influence and money to help the average American do better. But when all of that influence,
Harrison, when they think that Americans are scum that are not full souls, if they have that same belief that Jeffrey Epstein and his buddies were elucidating in those email correspondences, that is a huge roadblock to them uplifting America at all, helping Americans for any reason. Right? Yeah.
So, hoisted by their own petard, I guess, screwed by their own ideology.
You would think it would be very simple to just be good people. Being good people would solve a lot of problems around here. But apparently that's too hard for some of these people.
And especially, it just feels weird because I don't like, it's like the token Jew or whatever. But there are so many good examples of Jewish right-wingers, Mike Cernovich, Dave Smith, who just this is not hard. This is not a difficult mindset to accomplish. Like Cernovich, he's Jewish. He says the racism Jeffrey Epstein had for white people is evident throughout his emails. This won't get reported on much, but search Goy.
It's straight out.
Yeah, it's not used to denote a non-Jewish person. It's a slur. Ethnic and racial hatred in all forms should be called out. That is not a hard thing to say. I thank Mike Cernovich for saying that, but everybody should. It's not even like it's weird that this is unique and special and should be pointed out and celebrated because everyone should feel this way about everyone. But unless you got anything else, I want to move on from this topic because there's so much other stuff.
We can talk about this topic for years.
We can
down it forever.
Enough of that.
Probably will. I mean, I'll keep talking about it on my show. I'm sure you'll have more sections about it too. Let's get into some more interesting stuff too.
Yeah, because there is some absolutely insane stuff in these Epstein files, and this one I find. Out of all the crimes, there are some horrific crimes out there. This one to me is a crime against humanity that's really unparalleled. Mossad agent Epstein in the U.S. helped ISIS. This is from Syrian Girl at Partisan Girl on X. Epstein wrote that Turkey gave Jabhat al-Nusra advance notice and the U.S., quote, gave a pass to ISIS during its move on Palmyra, Syria. They didn't just give it a pass. They actually bombed the Syrian army when the Syrian army tried to stop ISIS. Palmyra and its ancient ruins were destroyed, and the head of the architectural museum was beheaded. So, the crew can look up the Palmyra ruins. These were a treasure of antiquity that were allowed to be destroyed by the cultural arsonists of ISIS. And Epstein and the U.S. and his handlers in Israel were directly involved in allowing ISIS because they were so mad that Bashar al-Assad, would stand up to Israel that I guess we have to destroy these truly priceless treasures of antiquity, this inheritance of humanity, gone forever. Because of Jeffrey Epstein and his ilk.
It also highlights this very questionable relationship between ISIS and Israel keeps coming up, right? Where, you start to wonder, wait a minute, why doesn't ISIS ever attack Israel? Why are they always attacking the people that you would expect to be on their team? Why are they working together behind the scenes? You can dig down that rabbit hole for yourself if you want. But one thing that this story highlights, not only the tragedy of the loss of life, the tragedy of the loss of the cultural relics that can never be gotten back, is it's a pattern. It highlights a pattern that has become more and more apparent as each email drop has come out, all the way, like starting with the Ehud Barak email drops, and then through each of these Epstein drops, there's just more and more stories where what used to be portrayed as, oh, he's just a lone pedophile that just was into Victoria's Secret models, actually was like an international spy that was doing arms deals in Ivory Coast. He was doing deals in Mongolia. He was doing deals around Syria. He was all over the world with the ex-head of Israeli military intelligence and former Prime Minister Ehud Barak doing very much Israeli spy military stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And again, the way I was describing it, I mean, spy, mobster, whatever you want to call it. But, you know, you watch The Sopranos and it's like, what is Tony Soprano's job? He goes into the office of a politician and says, I need $1 million. Give it to me or the blackmail goes out. I mean, that's his job. That's what he does. So it's like, we're like, how is he tied into all of this? Well, he's a fixer. I think it was Alex. I can't remember if it was Alex or you that called him a switchboard operator, basically. He was the he was the connection. He had all of the phone numbers. He had all of the connects. So he could connect anybody to anybody. So you needed weapons, you went to Jeff, he could connect you to the weapons guy. It's just what he did. He was a freewheeling, not a free agent because he had bosses, but could go anywhere, be anything to anybody. He was a spy in the same way that James Bond, when he goes to investigate Lashif, he's a professional poker player. When he goes to this place, he's a, you know, industrial magnate. It doesn't matter. It's whatever role he needs to fill. He's an actor at the end of the day. Well, an actor for
actually, you bring us
criminals.
To a really interesting point here. Let me just check. Yeah, we have enough time to talk about this because the huge elephant in the room is actually what Jeffrey Epstein was best at and what his actual like core primary job was, which was money laundering.
Right.
Like Jeffrey Epstein was the money guy. And it's, you know, some journalists kind of were onto this earlier than others over the years. It took certain amounts of disclosure for it to really become more and more transparent and clear. But for the longest time, the question was, where did this guy get his money? What was his skill set? And why was he valuable to these people? Why was he interacting with all these people? And it became more and more obvious over the years in the various disclosure drops that his skill was complex financial instruments being used to launder money. And back in the early days, that was like derivatives and things like CDOs, the kinds of derivatives that were used during the 2008 financial collapse. He had a whole bunch of CDO companies, often offshore, you know, tax havens in the Bahamas and stuff. That, you know, mysteriously disappeared right before the 2008 financial collapse. But then he also got really good at using charities and charitable foundations and, you know, 501c3s and all these different structures. He was a master, apparently, at extremely complex movements of money through all these different strategies. And to such an extent that he was referring people, like some of the most powerful people in the world, he was referring them to JP Morgan for banking services, which is quite the euphemism there. And so you start to realize, you start to put two and two together, and you realize that he's referring them because he is the money guy. He is getting them connected into this money laundering network. And when you start to look at all the people that he referred, all the people that he worked with, and those connections, you start to ask the question, wait a minute, how much money was flowing through, like not staying in his account, but flowing through his various networked accounts? And I would suspect, in my own opinion, I would suspect that it is billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. And I would bet that if this disclosure is slanted in any direction, it's slanted towards all the salacious pedophilia to get you to ignore all the money, because all that money is still flowing. And all like Sergey Brin, founder of Google, Larry Page, founder of Google, Elon Musk, tried to get it. I don't know if Elon Musk actually wound up getting the full referral. A bunch of these guys are getting referred to JP Morgan. Benjamin Netanyahu got set up with JP Morgan through him. Ehud Barak did. All sorts of people, like many, many, many very powerful billionaires. And so I can't help but wonder, what are those money flows doing today? What is the money laundering status with these various operations that were flowing through him today? And why is none of the mainstream reporting talking about the money and talking about the banking and talking about all that back end? Because, you know, follow the money, you'll find the real deal in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I wonder if it's just too obscure and occult for the average person to sink their teeth into. Because obviously, hearing, did you torture the woman? A lot easier to just sink your teeth into that than like, well, he was transferring this. So I wonder, is there a way to make the case that, like, no, you should be paying attention to this. This is where the power, you know, truly lies. Make that in a way that's as compelling, maybe not as compelling, but
yeah,
you know,
never will be.
Never will be, right?
It never will be as compelling, and it'll never be as good of a story. But Yeah, I think that the onus falls to journalists to do that. And this is stuff that I'm trying to dig into over the next couple months. And I've been focusing a lot on it over the last couple months of just digging apart everything we know about the money and about the money trail, the various banking institutions that he was working with, the various shell companies he had set up. Because as a journalist, if you can get that thread to link up to the next big piece of the story, then it can become compelling enough to tell it in a way that's like, oh, guys, get this. This is crazy.
Yeah.
But without the linkages, it's just a bunch of complex shell companies, which is what money laundering is. It's like obscuring the money flows through a bunch of complex stuff that is just hard to track. So I'm not sure what is on the other end of that, and I know there's a bunch of good journalists digging into it, and I hope they don't stop. I'm gonna personally not stop, because this is salacious and this is important, and all of the trafficking and abuse is critical to expose and to talk about. But if you don't also uncover the money flows, then the actual system is going to stay in place. Right. The actual abusive networks, the organized crime networks, everything that this was built on top of was the money. And so it's like fixing the rash, but not fixing the disease that caused the rash in the first place.
Well, and the money is also the way you ingratiate yourself with everybody, right? Everybody's going to come to you and want to be your friend because you're sitting there going, I think I've got $5 billion I want to spend on something. Gee, I wonder what it'll be. And so, that's what people are like, how does he know all these people? He's hanging out with scientists, whatever else. So I think you're right that, obviously he was the money guy and he was very involved in all of that. And you do see little hints of that throughout this. But also he was like the science guy. He was like, he was hanging out with Bill Gates and Stephen Hawking. And, he was trying to portray himself as this science dude, really just like trying to like clone sex slaves. He's just the creepiest dude ever. But it's the money that allowed him to ingratiate himself in that. And and it's like, people are like, why are they hanging out with this Israeli spy? It's because he didn't say, hey, I'm an Israeli spy. He said, hey, I've got $1 billion. Maybe I'll invest it, come to my island. And suddenly they're on tape with somebody doing something. And half their company belongs to Epstein. It's very convenient.
It's when you actually trace all of the different tech companies he was involved with or funded, all the different scientists that he was working with, all the different institutions like MIT, Harvard that he was tied into. When you actually trace all of those threads forwards, you realize that his network and this corruption, this rot, is actually ingrained very deeply into a lot of institutions and companies and government systems that we rely on today, like Palantir. It's getting more and more exposed every day that Peter, at first it was, he talked to Peter Thiel once at one dinner. And then it was, he invested with Valor Ventures just a little bit. And then it was like, they're like emailing a lot. They like met a lot. They were telling jokes back and forth.
And then we played the audio today where he's describing Palantir and Peter Thiel to Ehud Barak.
It's crazy. It's like they can run an international child sex trafficking ring, but they can't spell.
They can't spell Palantir.
They spelled it 4 different ways within like 30 seconds. It's like, dude, you guys are not that smart sometimes. Like, what's going on?
It is pretty crazy. And then there's this. I don't know if we have time to fully deconstruct this, but in this email, Epstein says Davos can replace the UN, cyber, crypto, genetics, international coordination, which is more or less exactly what's happening with Trump, BlackRock, Elon Musk, Palantir, the technocracy, AI governance, transhumanism, and ultimately rebranding the New World Order into something of a more MAGA palatable operation, as I've been saying. That is why Trump was a keynote at the World Economic Forum. See, I don't agree with that, but the Board of Peace, the Gaza Smart City, absolutely ties into that. And we have the emails from before. I think it was it Larry Ellison talking to Ehud Barak about how Marco Rubio and Tony Blair need to meet up together. Now Marco Rubio and Tony Blair are like the two people in charge of the Gaza Board of Peace, which is starting to serve as like a technocratic control system, New World Order structure. So
corporatocracy. Pretty
interesting. Epstein is saying, who needs the UN when Davos can replace it? It has the same level of international coordination.
And it's also very it's just in line with like, let's try to run the world.
Yeah.
Right? It's very, let's run the whole world. And, that's supposed to be a conspiracy theory. It's supposed to be a conspiracy theory that there's a elite pedophile network that's like trafficking children and running the world. And yet we have an elite pedophile network that's tied into all these governments, that's all these billionaires, all these tech executives, and they are trying to run the world objectively. And they're like he's literally saying, I represent the Rothschilds and the Rothschild power. And so when you look at Davos, when you look at, the various groups he names there, it's just very, the conspiracy theorists are vindicated in so many ways. Whether you're talking about like the old school cats, like the David Ickes that have been here since like before Davos was even like in its prime. I don't know if David Icke is that old, but like we have all the way from the days of the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations through Davos today. And Davos is in many ways kind of feels a little in decline now. And
it is, Well, they're reorganizing, redesigning their
representative kind of faction there.
But they brought Larry Fink on. I mean, it seems like they really transferred away from like, no, we're just loving and we want to help the earth. So like help. Then they're just like, yeah, screw it. Put Larry Fink in charge. We're going to exploit all of you to death. I mean, that really, and of course, in Europe, it's like Macron, ex-Rothschild banker, Frederick Merz, ex-Goldman Sachs banker. You've got Keir Starmer was the guy who covered up the pedophile rape gangs in the UK. It's like they just
brought up Mark Carney over to Canada too.
And Mark Carney, former Bank of England. Exactly. I knew I was missing one. Yes, they're all former bankers. So it seems like they're like, yeah, we're done ruling from the shadows. We're just going to sit on the throne now.
It does feel like that. It feels like we're at a time of acceleration, and I'm sure that they know why we're accelerating. I don't think that we necessarily know why, but I think that everyone kind of agrees. When you look at the pattern, something is accelerating, and it's sketching me out. AI is accelerating. Their pace is accelerating. Geopolitics is accelerating. I don't know what it means, but
I don't know what it means either.
Frosty as heck.
Yeah, but it feels like we have the initiative. It feels like for the first, I mean, they would have false flagged if they knew this was coming. It feels like this has, at least for a brief period, set them back on their heels, which means we need to be driving forward with everything we've got. They're off balance. They're scattered. Run them down, folks. Ian Carroll, incredible stuff. Ian Carroll Show on X.